Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a 3v3 show match between White Wolf Palace and Vietnam Legends. Two legendary Age of Empires 2 teams battling it out in Age of Empires 4 in a 3v3 setting. White Wolf Palace actually has 4 members, but obviously 3 will play at the same time. We will jump into game number 1 in a matter of moments. It is going to be on Arabia. The show match is a best of 5, and here we go. It is going to be a right versus left matchup over here. We will have in the red, Pool playing as the English, ACCM is going to be playing as the French in blue, and down south, it is going to be Bakhti playing as the Rus in yellow. The same civilizations were picked by White Wolf Palace. We will have Bad Koala playing as the Rus down south. We will have Mr.Yo as the English in the pocket. And last but not least, Vivi, the Fat Dragon, as the French in the flank. So the only difference between the two players is the fact that Mr.Yo is playing English from the pocket, and Vivi is playing French from the flank, which is a little unorthodox. Usually you see the cavalry player being the pocket and the archer civilization being the flank. It is a somewhat predictable scenario that we're going to see Rus Fast Castle here into Horse Archers from Bad Koala. We are going to see Longbow play from Mr.Yo, and last but not least, French Knights with professional scouts to ferry in the air for Vivi, and I would expect something very, very similar for the Vietnamese team as well. Looking at the right side of the map, we will have two very, very closely spawned Vietnamese players over here. You see that they are pretty much just one screen away from each other. In fact, one of the gold mines for ACCM is just right next to the gold mine of Cool over here, so it is going to be quite easy to reinforce each other over here. That being said, their third player is kind of far away to the south, so the Chinese team will have the chance to isolate Bakhti from the rest of his teammates and just go for a double team or triple team out here. Who is Cool now? That's a good question. So, Cool used to be an Age of Empires 2 player. He played a ton with the Vietnamese Legends team in 2019 in ECL, and then sort of retired and went on to play Age of Empires 1. Now, Age of Empires 1 is a game that has a massive community in Vietnam, and he was a very, very good Age of Empires 1 player, so don't underestimate him. He's got the RTS skills. Upon the release of AoE4, he pretty much fully switched into AoE4, but I would expect a lot of good things from him. This guy's got professional experience. He hasn't really been playing in major tournaments, and the people that are new to the scene probably don't know him, but this guy can play, and this guy will deliver when given the opportunity. Looks like we do have a bit of a scout fighting over here, as ACCM is trying his best to deny that hunt from the opponent's Rus player. You see, there is a ton of scouts all around the map. We have Mr.Yo and Vivi chasing off the scout of ACCM. Let's take a look at the Rus players' bounties, because that's usually the most important thing in team games. You have a ton of hunt to take down, so you're almost guaranteed to get to that level with the bounty. Bakhti is the Rus player of the Vietnamese team. Only 145 bounty, not something spectacular. Whereas for Bad Koala, if you look at the other side of the map, it is 195. Neither of the players are at tier 2 bounty yet, and in team games, having only 200 bounty in Dark Age is not spectacular. But obviously, as we get some more scouts out, that is going to increase, and ideally they get to that level 2, level 3 bounty. The more gold you get from bounty, the easier it's going to be to buy yourself up to Castle Age, and that could be crucial, because the first player to get some Horse Archers on the field could give a massive boost to his own team right now. I've been listening to the feedback on YouTube regarding this panel on the top left, and many people said it is actually something that can be kept out here. So as long as we don't have any kind of action going on, I think it makes sense to have it open. People, for whatever reason, love the income per minute tab. To me as a caster, the current resources actually feel more relevant, but since people have been requesting this, might as well go for that. Looks like we have free on the Council Hall for Cool. On the other side, Mr.Yo is getting that one up with free as well. Vivi, reaching Feudal Age, is the first player, and he's opening up with Scouts. This is a standard professional Scouts build from the French. You got the cheap mill, you got the cheap technology. Nothing prevents you from getting 3 or 4 Scouts out and ferrying in some deer. You already have the deer killed, so you don't even have to bother with that. You just ferry it in as fast as possible. Is Lenok playing Pro League as well? Yes, he will. He's playing with Kivian and another Korean player that's got a Korean name. And since I can't read Korean, I have no idea what his exact name is. But yes, Lenok is playing with a full Korean team. That's correct. A kind of slow feudal age here from ACCM if you compare it to Vivi. He just now got up to feudal age, and that's going to delay the addition of scouts. If you look at Vivi, he has a second scout out already, and a third one is coming in. Professional scouts is almost finished, whereas for ACCM, he's just now starting that. So there is going to be a head start for Vivi when it comes to scouts production, when it comes to knights production, and of course when it comes to ferrying in the deer. Meanwhile, we have Bad Koala coming in with two scouts. He's being pursued by a wolf, so that's something that he could take down, but he prioritized the deer for the time being. 290 bounty for Bad Koala over here, and for Bacti, it's 460. So our yellow player was able to accumulate a lot more bounty compared to Bad Koala. In the end, Bad Koala's bounty isn't looking spectacular. It's at 315 right now. He got to level 2, but at this point, he's still very far from level 3. Whereas for Bacti, he seems to be rather close to that. So far, minimal aggression coming from all players. Basically, everybody's just focusing on their eco. This is the first time that Yo is moving out of his base with some longbows. We got September 1818 with the resub. Thank you so much for the 6 months, half a year of support. I appreciate it a lot. Looking at Vivi, he's going for that second stable quite early on, so we're going to see a ton of aggression with those knights. This is the usual way you play French in a team game. You open up with professional scouts, that gives you a fairly decent food economy, and then you're just going to go double stable knights as fast as possible. For Mr.Yo, he also went for a mill on the berries. He's running a little low on the sheep, and that's a little concerning for him. So, oftentimes, something that you see from players when they're playing team games is that the player that's going professional scouts, which is either the Rus or the French, or both, actually either ferries in deer to the teammate, or just gives them the sheep. It's more common to see the sheep being donated to the player that doesn't have professional scouts. Now, that didn't happen over here, and that's going to hurt Mr.Yo, because you see, he's out of food beneath his town center, so his only source of food is going to be the berries. Meanwhile, for ACCM, he is going heavy on the hunt department, and I would love to see some hunt being donated to the teammates as well. Obviously, the Knights player is probably the highest priority when it comes to getting that food in fast, because you want to pop out those Knights early, but helping out your teammate could actually help a ton. Castle Age already on the way for Bacti. He has managed to get 485 gold in the bounty, and as I said, depending on how much bounty you get, that determines how many transactions you have to make on your Golden Gate to get up to Castle Age, and Bacti is already on the way up, whereas for Bad Koala, as you see, he is just one transaction away. He's missing 60 gold. If he got like 380 bounty, he would be going up, and this is the biggest bottleneck. Because once you have those tickets, you can get yourself up, but you get your tickets at a certain rate. And if you don't get enough bounty, that means you need one more ticket, delaying your castle age time. You see, he's just now rushing up the Abbey of the Trinity, whereas Bacti already has that up. This gives Bacti a head start when it comes to getting some warrior monks out, grabbing the relics, and also when it comes to popping out those horse archers. In the middle of the field, we do have some skirmishing going on. Not a ton, to be honest, though. You see, there is barely any kind of engagement going on. If you look at the KD tab, it was one kill by Mr.Yo, and that is it. So, very, very minimal fighting going on right now. It looks like the players are just ferrying in deer, and it looks like we're going into Castle Age straight away for everybody. You got cool mining stone. He's likely going to place a second town center at this base. Whereas for Mr.Yo, he's not on stone. Instead, he's just going for a full longbowman play. So Yo is investing a lot more into the army, and it looks like Yo and Vivi are tired of waiting. They're going for cool here. Currently, we have 22 longbows for Mr. Cool. We have pretty much the same for Mr.Yo, but we also have some knights supporting. When it comes to knights for ACCM, minimal numbers close to the base of Cool. There is a couple that could come in to reinforce, and I think they will have to, because now they spot the knights of the Fat Dragon. Down south, you already have horse archers moving out. For Bacti, has his first warrior monk already out. There is a ton of relics on this map, so being able to get to the Castle Age first with the Rus is actually even more valuable than in 1v1. Because At this point, you have the chance to pick up like 6, 7, 8 relics if needed. Still, not a ton of fighting going on, so you gotta look at those resources and see who is getting close to Castle Age. ACCM banged up a ton of food, but not a lot of gold in the bank for him. Still, he might be ahead compared to Vivi when it comes to Castle Age timing. Vivi is going for stable number 3 here, so he's going to add a ton of army, but unless he's going to use it, it's not going to help. He needs to use that army, otherwise ACCM would just beat him to Castle Age. Second town center coming up for cool, and what this will mean is that he's likely not aging up with the King's Palace, instead he's probably going to play with a White Tower. Because if you go for a second TC in Feudal Age with the English, then you're probably playing with the White Tower, and that's gonna give you pretty much a Siege Workshop, something nice to defend your base with, and something nice you can use to train siege weapons or even cavalry if needed. Looking at the right side of the map, we still have some deer ferrying coming in. I like how active the players are when it comes to bringing in all the hunt across the map. There is one more patch down here, but aside from that, basically all the map has been depleted from hunt. One scout here from Yo goes down, but this will tell Yo that his opponent's army is right here. The warrior monk does get intercepted. That's a little annoying for Bhakti over here. He wasn't expecting that army to be there, and he's going to lose that one warrior monk. Meanwhile, though, we have horse archers moving in, and this is the first major raid of the game. Looks like quite a few of those horse archers will bite dust in the end. That's 3 losses out there. But a couple of villagers went down from Bat Koala, so might have been worth it for Bhakti. Looks like we have a fairly huge number of horse archers, though, for Bat Koala. Whereas for Bhakti, his horse archer numbers aren't spectacular just yet, so Bat Koala has the numbers advantage as we speak. And it looks like we're getting close to that battle, close to the base of Cool, but this is going to be extremely difficult for Vivi's team to push. There's a tower here and a town center, so the network of castles bonus is extended all the way out here. It's going to be very difficult to push this one against all those longbows. You see, Cool is trying to move out, but he's going to have to retreat, because if they take this fight right here, they will just trade armies, and no one's going to get an advantage. As we speak, we have 2 relics for both Rus players, but we already have the 4th range coming up for Bat Koala. Whereas for Bhakti, he's only on 2 ranges on the front and 2 more at the back, so same setup for both players. Surprisingly passive game given the fact that we have this much army on the field. Look at this, just barely any kills in this entire game, yet we do have gigantic armies on the field. I feel like they're just waiting for that timing. ACCM is up to Castle Age though, and Mr.Yo isn't, and now it's a veteran knight army from ACCM. This may have been the moment they were waiting for. Yo is getting close to Castle Age, Vivi is not, so unless Vivi is like already aging up, Vivi could be in trouble, and Vivi isn't aging up. Now I feel like this is the time to strike for the Vietnamese team. Their opponents just invested a ton of resources into a battering ram, but the most important thing right now is that these knights are Castle Age knights, whereas these ones are Feudal Age. The longbows would trade evenly against each other, but these knights would just finish off whatever is left from the opponent's army. That's actually a good point on the chat, and this is something I wanted to react to, because in YouTube comments, I got a recommendation that we could use team colors. And honestly, I thought it's a great idea. It would help a lot. Believe it or not, you can't turn on team colors when you're spectating a team game. I would love to see the standard team colors that you can get when you're playing the team game, but you can't do it for casting. So with casting, in the current version of the game, you're stuck with the individual colors, unfortunately. It looks like White Wolf Palace is going to come in, though, triple armies, and even though you have Castle Age Knights versus Feudal Age Knights over here, that will actually absorb the charge of the Purple Knights here, at the end of the day, the army numbers are way better over here for White Wolf Palace, and the Horse Archers from Bhakti are just nowhere to be found. Network of Castles is in here, though, as we do have Veteran Knights still missing for Vivi, so a lot more Feudal Age Knights, but the upgrades are obviously weaker on them, versus a ton of longbows with Network of Castles bonus and some Castle Age Knights. Horse Archers do come in here, but this is not a great fight for Bhakti. His numbers are just not there. They will be picked apart by longbows, and now the town center from Cool is under fire. Most of the knights for Vivi are gone, though, so I feel like Cool has enough to hold this one, but this definitely turned out to be a battle that was worse than they expected. Looks like the town center is still under a lot of pressure over here. You don't want to lose this town center for cool. That's basically the reason why I think that Vietnam Legends was a tiny bit ahead. That second town center would have given a nice eco advantage for cool, but if that goes down, that's probably going to disappear. Still, now with the longbows having the network of castles bonus in here versus the ones that don't, plus the Castle Age Knights, supported by a sufficient amount of horse archers, it looks like Vietnam Legends will push this one back, and they might even be able to clean up those longbows. This is a nasty scenario for White Wolf Palace, because if those knights and those horse archers escape, the knights and horse archers of the Vietnamese team will just steamroll those green ones. So at this point, you might need to fight this one for White Wolf Palace. Otherwise, they will be losing that longbow mass from Mr.Yo. Mr.Yo is the only player not in Castle Age though, and that's a little concerning. Because Cool, being up to Castle Age, he's going to have veteran longbowmen in a matter of moments. How is Mr.Yo doing with Castle Age? He's just now going up with the King's Palace, and that once again could give a nice power spike to the Vietnamese team here. Vivi is up to Castle Age, but he's still missing the Veteran Knight upgrade as we speak. Now it looks like Bhakti is going to counterattack Bad Koala. Army numbers seem to be very close, and we don't have Boyar's Fortitude for either of these players, so it's standard 85 HP Horse Archers as we speak. Sacred Site's being captured, so this is the stage where Chaos is going to just evolve even more in this game. Let's take a quick look at the relic situation. We do have 4 for Bhakti real quickly. We have 3... Looks like only 3 for Bad Koala, so tiny bit of an advantage over here for Bhakti in that department. Bhakti, the best food and wood income in the game. Yo, almost up to Castle Age, and he's getting a tower up here to expand his own network of castles bonus. Meanwhile, one thing that we haven't talked about is that Cool ended up aging up with the King's Palace, so turns out that he's going to play very, very eco-heavy over here. 3 town centers worth of villager production. He probably should have the villager lead in this game. Cool sitting at 60 villagers, Bhakti's at 56, 49 only for Bad Koala, but 61 for the Fat Dragon, 55 for Mr.Yo, and 61 for ACCM. So pretty much everybody is in the 60s except for Bad Koala, but he's going to have some sacred sites under his control as he intercepts this warrior monk from Bhakti. Here comes the big horde, and now Vivi is going to have to evacuate the right side of his base. Not a ton of army over here for Mr.Yo, but Vivi aged up with the Royal Institute. And this is not a landmark that we have seen a ton recently in 1v1s at least. Usually the players age up with the guild hall, but what the Royal Institute gives you is unique technologies, researched a lot cheaper, and independent of age. And the independent of age factor is the most important here. Being able to grab Royal Bloodlines in Castle Age, an upgrade that gives you 35% extra HP for your cavalry, could be a deciding factor in a fight like this. We'll go from 230 HP to something like 300. That's a very powerful upgrade. One of the most powerful upgrades in the entire game. It's an Imperial Age upgrade, but the Royal Institute allows you to grab it in Castle Age. And once you have that, you are getting to 310 HP. Now, in the long run, once we get to Imperial Age, the Guild Hall is the better landmark. This building, however, the Royal Institute, allows you to play a lot more aggressively in Castle Age, and that's the core concept. You can grab Imperial Age technologies with a discount in Castle Age. Gotta love the scout placement over here from ACCM. He knows exactly how isolated those horse archers are, and they're diving in for a fight. This could be a terrible fight for White Wolf Palace, or it could be a great one depending on how those knights perform. And knights are now coming in, 80 extra HP on each and every one of them. ACCM aged up with the guild host, so he won't be able to grab Royal Bloodlines for a long time. And that could be a deciding factor, because I feel like in this very moment, Mr.Yo's team is coming up. There's also Warrior Monk coming in with a relic. Are we going to see a conversion? The Warrior Monk is not being focused down. The Vololo is being triggered. Longbows unable to get that killed, but it looks like they will take it down just before the conversion would occur. Still, those knights from Vivi with the Royal Bloodlines are just steamrolling everything. And if we look at the kill death ratios now, that starts to swing in the favor of White Wolf Palace by a massive margin. Mr.Yo 73 kills, 29 deaths. Vivi at 34-41, but his knights have been the perfect meat shield in this battle. Cool is crawling up with towers to expand his own network of castles bonus, but now I feel like it comes down to military numbers. That is just enormous horde of horse archers and just an unstoppable force of castle age knights here from Vivi. Him going for the Royal Institute was a little risky because you also need to squeeze out that otherwise very expensive Royal Bloodlines upgrade, but once you have that, your knights are just so much superior compared to ACCM's knights over here. And now, Vietnam Legends is on the defensive. They still have a pretty big mass of longbowmen, and Cool has a very powerful economy here, so don't underestimate Vietnam's chances right now, but I feel like now, White Wolf Palace is in the driver's seat. Looking at the army numbers real quickly over here, 34 for Cool. We have only 19 for ACCM, 79 army for Mr.Yo. That is brutal. Most of that being longbowmen. 23 army only for Vivi, but they do have 300 HP each. And then if you look at Bat Koala, he's got 50 army compared to Bacti's 40, Cool's 40, and 20 from ACCM. So army numbers advantage in the favor of White Wolf Palace as they're crawling up. Multiple rams coming in here for Mr.Yo. Network of castles expanded once again though for Cool, so he can get some nice shots on those Royal Knights. Bacti's gonna need to help out here as we do have a keep coming in for Cool. Also a ton of ranges, so we could see a couple of crossbows being mixed in against the Knights if needed. But at this point, you probably just want to focus on full longbowman production and trade against Mr.Yo. Looks like Yo isn't feeling confident pushing against the keep though, or against the tower, so they are not really taking this fight up until now. At this point, Vivi is just using his knights to absorb the damage. This is something that you could see a lot in Age of Empires 2. Cavalry just being used as the arrow sponge, but now Bat Koala moves in with the horse archers, and that is just a massive numbers advantage right now for the team of Mr.Yo. It looks like the knights weren't on the front though, so many of those horse archers and longbows will fall to the forces of Cool. Bacti still needs his horse archers though. I feel like at this point, given the fact that Bacti's forces are much weaker, you could actually justify trying to raid Mr.Yo's reinforcements. Yo is just flooding archers through the map. Gigantic force of crossbows and longbows streaming through the map. The keep is up, boiling oil is on the way. Knights trading off against each other. Longbows, they could really use some crossbow support right now because the longbows of Mr.Yo aren't able to pick off crossbows here, so just 5 crossbows would help immensely. ACCM's army is going down, and on the right side, now we see Yo and Bat Koala pushing up as well. Numbers advantage heavily in the favor of White Wolf Palace, and I feel like this might be the game here because Vietnam Legends, despite the fact that Cool had a very, very nice economy over here, they were just unable to hold this push. Part of that comes from the fact that the White Wolf Palace went for a lot more aggressive approach when it comes to army production, and part of that comes from Vivi's Knights having that Royal Bloodlines upgrade, something that ACCM's Knights never got, simply because ACCM decided to go up with the Guildhall, whereas Vivi went with the Royal Institute. Now, Cool's army is just nowhere to be found. Behind this one, sacred sites are also being captured by Bat Koala, so they're using that map control perfectly. Bacti is coming in with some more horse archers, but now the entire economy of Cool is just going down. Production buildings being burned down as we speak. This town center hasn't really been repaired, so it's getting close to destroyed as well. And as things stand, White Wolf Palace will grab game number 1 over here. Looks like the Vietnam Legends aren't ready to give up on this yet, and I feel like at this point, you could justify trying to just get Cool, slowly absorb the damage, and then use the horse archers to get some crazy raid going. I think that's your only shot. But this is just very, very difficult. Look at the amount of units streaming across the map over here for Bat Koala and for Mr.Yo. The numbers are just gigantic. So we're talking about Bat Koala having 49 army and Mr.Yo having 93. Mr.Yo is almost pop-capped. Looking at Mr.Yo's resources as well, he's very close to Imperial Age, so soon we will have Elite Longbowman, another defensive keep coming in for Cool. Looks like he's just trying to keep his cool here in this situation and hoping that his teammates can swing it back. The problem is that I don't see either ACCM or Bacti being able to just get any kind of advantage over their respective counterparts. It's a mirror civilization matchup, so the only way that you would be able to swing this back is if either Bhakti or ACCM is massively ahead compared to PV or Bad Koala. ACCM has 2 town centers going for him, by the way, so he's been pretty active on the eco department, but he doesn't have the numbers, and even with this keep, it's gonna be difficult to keep all these landmarks alive. Talking about landmarks, the council hall is out here, the starting town center is over here, and the king's palace is over here, so as long as this keep's palace is standing, Cool won't get defeated. The problem for them, as I said, is that Cool right now is not affecting the battle in any meaningful way, and Mr.Yo has been going up to Imperial Age. In fact, he's about to reach Imp in a matter of moments, so he's gonna have access to bombars, he's gonna have access to the elite longbowman, he is going to have access to the volley unique upgrade, so suddenly that big mass of longbows will just become even more scary. Still, Vietnam is not giving up. They're going to continue playing for some more time, hoping that their opponents make a mistake. Looking at the eco, when it comes to resource income per minute, that's looking pretty spectacular for Mr.Yo. He has been on 2 town centers, but as one of you pointed out, indeed, Bhakti's score is pretty high, and that is because Bhakti is in Imperial Age, and we haven't talked about that. Hold the phone, chat. Hold on. This is one of those situations where Cool is just left here to die, but behind this one, ACCM and Bhakti are just completely untouched. And as I said, that Royal Institute upgrade for VV's horse or VV's cavalry is useful until ACCM doesn't get it. But once ACCM gets to Imperial Age, if ACCM also gets it, suddenly the guild hall becomes a much more meaningful landmark. Looks like the rams that are quite expensive will go down, and those Imperial Age horse archers will actually perform quite nicely against the cavalry of VV. This is not the last landmark for Bad Koala. There is the King's Palace on the right side, so even if this town center goes down, it's not the end of the world for Cool. As I said, Cool at this point is just the one absorbing damage. He's at 83 villagers though, and that's something to point out. He's got a ton of farmers at the back, but it looks like this is the moment where they give up. I'm not 100% sure why. Cool resigned. He still has 83 villagers. This is a weird decision. I'm not 100% sure why they resigned just now. If they resigned 5 minutes ago, I would have said, okay, I understand it. Because Cool was dying, he just lost so much, but they just destroyed all the rams. I was just about to say that Cool had 80 villagers still. Bhakti was in Imperial Age with horse archers, elite horse archers to be precise. ACCM had a good economy. As I said, if they resigned 5 minutes ago, I would have said, okay, whatever. They felt they were losing and that's it. But they were just about to start swinging this back. Was there a chance for them to come back? I'm not so sure, but you see, at this point, if they start resigning over here, I say, okay, they are losing a ton. But you see, Cool just stabilized, so that was a little weird for me. Still, ultimately, there are 2 things to look at here. 200 kills, 87 deaths for Mr.Yo, very nice control over those longbows, and Vivi just playing that arrow sponge perfectly with those knights with Royal Institute. That was the key thing here. Having that superior knight force, and then coordination was also a tiny bit better for White Wolf Palace over here. They were able to triple team Cool, and Bhakti was a little too slow to reinforce. Bhakti 25,000 food gathered. When it comes to gold though, ACCM is at 15 grand. I'm curious about the overall villager count. 114 for Mr.Yo, 83 only for Bad Koala, and Bhakti also had 5 relics over his free. So there was definitely an equal difference between the Rus players. When it comes to the French players, that was pretty close between ACCM and VV. Obviously, Yo was massively ahead compared to Cool. But still, I feel like I'm a little surprised that this resign came the moment it came. Because, as I said, if they resigned a couple of minutes earlier, I wouldn't have been surprised. With the resign coming just after Rams were destroyed and just after Bhakti had his Imperial Age Elite upgrade coming for his horse archers, that was a little surprising. This being said, now we have a 1-0 score in the favor of White Wolf Palace. How does Horse Archer trade against Knights, both in Imp? depends on how you use your horse archers. So the first thing to look at is that the horse archers obviously will always be able to microwave from knights, but once the knights charge in and they get a successful charge, they will just massacre the horse archers. But there is also another factor to take a look at, and that is the mounted precision upgrade for the Rus. Because with that upgrade, you get +2 range on your horse archers, so it's a lot easier to keep the distance between your horse archers and your knights. So depends on how well you can micro your horse archers, but horse archers perform at an acceptable level against knights in the same age. That applies to Imperial Age as well. Okie dokie. Looks like we have the players in the lobby. We'll get the home map pick very soon. When ACCM's team played against Hera, Kaposh, and Marine Lord, they picked Ancient Spires as their home map. So I wonder if that's going to be the approach here once again, or we're going to see something different. When it comes to available home maps, the picks that you can make are Ancient Spires, Boulder Bay, Danube River, Highview, Hillandale, and Lipany. So those are the maps that you can pick from. We'll see what they're going for. I can see them going for a slower paced map, something like Hillandale. I can see them going for something a little more aggressive, something like Ancient Spires, for example, that has quite a lot of early aggression going on when it comes to trying to deny docks, trying to burn them down with Mongols. So there's a lot of options for the Vietnamese team to go to. Will have their picks in a matter of moments. 1-0 score right now for White Wolf Palace. They're looking strong. The thing that I would highlight the most for White Wolf Palace is team coordination. Every single moment in this game, they had a very, very nice control of their entire army. So the free players were always able to support each other and only take fights when all free players were there. And that is just a very, very valuable asset and a very, very valuable skill when it comes to team games, being able to coordinate your forces. And this is probably the biggest difference between teams that play on an everyday basis in team games versus teams that have a lot of very good individual players. So, talk about, let's say, Kaposh, Hera, Marine Lord, they barely play team games together. So, that team coordination factor is a tiny bit smaller, whereas their individual skill is much larger. So, in a matchup, let's say White Wolf Palace versus Hera, Kaposh, and Marine Lord, it's going to come down to whether or not that individual skill and like a decent level of team coordination is capable of beating an exceptional level of team coordination. Okay, the players are in a lobby, so we should have a game up in a matter of moments. I don't have the civilizations yet, but we'll have that sent to me very soon. What's the sling situation in AoE4 team games? Will we have the same problems as in AoE2? So that's a good question. For those of you that don't know what slinging is, basically slinging is a continuous sending of resources from one player to another. Usually, when you just send 500 food once, we don't call that slinging. The bigger question, indeed, is what happens if one player is just going full sling? So, one player is not doing anything, no army, just building up eco and sending resources to another player. I don't think it's going to be a problem in AoE4. We don't have any slinging restrictions, so you're free to send resources to any player anytime. And the reason why is because AoE4 is a lot more punishing when it comes to not making army. In Age of Empires 2, you can void yourself up, so the player that's slinging has a much better chance of not dying. But in Age of Empires 4, it's very, very difficult to get yourself fully void in a way that there is no aggression hitting you for 20-30 minutes and then just continuously send resources to another player. That just feels impossible, especially in open maps. Maybe on something where it's like a closed map, I can see that being a thing. So I can see something like, let's say, Hillandale having a Chinese player go for like a crazy 2 or 3 town center Song Dynasty boom, and then just slinging players for army, and then once their mates have already gotten the resources they needed, they built up their armies, the Chinese player just goes into Imperial and supports it, bombards. That's a possibility. But I feel like full slinging is way less powerful in Age of Empires 4 compared to Age of Empires 2, simply because you get punished a lot more for not making army. Looks like we're going to Danube River, so you're going to see some Delhi action coming in here. The civilizations for White Wolf Palace will be Delhi, Mongols, and Holy Roman Empire, and the civilizations for Vietnam Legends will be Delhi, Mongols, and China. So the only difference is that one team goes for Holy Roman Empire and the other one goes for Chinese. You'd have to pick one game community who is performing the best in AoE4. Which would it be? StarCraft 2, AoE, AOM, Warcraft? That's a little difficult for me to say because I'm still learning the backgrounds of some of these players, and many players had multiple backgrounds. So, like, how do you categorize Marine Lord? He was an elite StarCraft player, but he was also a very good Age of Empires 2 player. He never really showed that in Age of Empires 2 tournaments. He didn't really play in a lot of AoE 2 tournaments, but he was a very high level AoE 2 player. So, like, yeah, from that perspective, I'll probably say, yeah, Marine Lord is StarCraft, let's say. But then again, you have players like Vortex Lucifron that played both StarCraft and Warcraft. So there are a bunch of players that are not clearly just one game. And also, we didn't have a ton of games played or ton of tournaments played, so that's also a little difficult. Take a look at. I think people with StarCraft backgrounds are looking strong. So that I can say for sure that we got a lot of people with StarCraft backgrounds performing at a quite decent level. Um, I think part of the reason why the AoE players, like the pure AoE players, have not shown that much in tournaments is because many AoE 2 players still split the time between AoE 2 and 4. Yep, Cool was a top AoE 1 player. Absolutely. Vietnam has one of the largest Age of Empires 1 communities. That's actually one of the trickiest questions you can ask to any Age of Empires fan. Name the Age of Empires title that's watched the most. Everybody will be like, oh yeah, Age of Empires 2 had a gigantic viewership for the last 2 years. AoE4 had tremendous viewer numbers in the last couple of months. But no, the most watched Age of Empires game is actually Age of Empires 1. Age of Empires 1 has a gigantic community, especially in Vietnam. They watch it on Facebook Gaming, as far as I know, and it's like a completely unique and isolated subculture of Age of Empires. They regularly have 6-digit live viewer count on their stuff. So, as far as I know, Age of Empires 1 is a bit like a national sport for the Vietnamese community. So, being able to perform at a very high level in Age of Empires 1 for Cool is a state mark on his performance in general. All right. So, looks like the players are just now setting up the game. Took them a tiny bit of time to get that done, but we should have the games going in a matter of moments. So, Delhi, China, and Mongols versus Delhi, Holy Roman Empire, and Mongols. Do they play AoE 1D? I think they play something different. I think they have like a special mod. So, something comparable to what we had in Age of Empires 2 back then. So it's a completely unique mod that they're playing, but I have minimal information on that because this part of the Age of Empires scene is just so isolated from everything. Minimal information comes out. Usually, whatever happens there only happens in Vietnamese language. So unless you have someone that's specifically translating and bringing that information out, we Westerners see very minimal information flow from there. So I don't really know much about that, but Age of Empires 1 is just enormous in Vietnam. As I said, I think it's somewhere on Facebook Gaming. If you start digging the internet, you will probably find these places. But I wish I could tell you more about this, but I have limited information on this. All I know is that AoE 1 in Vietnam is like huge. All right. With that being said, it looks like we are going to have game number 2 coming up. so I think Lix is playing, so this might be the first appearance of Lix on the screen. Hold on while we jump into the game. Actually, they might need to remake the lobby. Hold on. Hold on. Not necessarily super happy that we take 2 hours to set up each game, but that's something that happens with team games every once in a while. Alright, it probably just took the players some time to load into the game. Hopefully no one crashed. Game number 2 coming up. Just to clarify the rules, because this is something that we haven't talked about yet, so you can sign up for a tournament with up to 5 players. Now, you could make a case for, one team having the advantage when it comes to backups, and players, you will be splitting your share of the prize pool more ways. So, for a tournament, you can sign up with 5 players maximum, 3 being starters and 2 being substitutes, and you can sub any player in and out anytime during the tournament. So you can sign up with up to 5 players. Some teams go with only 3, like Vietnam Legends. White Wolf Palace goes with 4. With that being said, we're jumping into game number 2. Apologies for the delays, but we're finally here on Danube River, a map that I haven't really seen being used a lot in team games so far. This is going to be a first to me. On the left side, we do have the White Wolf Palace team. Looks like Vivi is now on the bench, and Lix steps in. He's going to be playing as the Holy Roman Empire in purple. We're going to have Bat Koala playing as the Pocket in teal with the Delhi Sultanate, and Mr.Yo is going to be playing yellow Mongols in the right side. Meanwhile, on the other side, we do have Mongols to the left side of the map, so it's a little different from Mr.Yo's setup. Mr.Yo is closest to the corner, whereas here Bhakti is on the open side of the field. Pocket is going to be the Delhi Sultanate once again here in the hands of ACCM, and last but not least, we have Cool playing as the Chinese to the right side of the map. This is usually the safest position to be in here, in this little corner. So having the Chinese in this corner is actually very, very helpful for Cool, because supplemented by a good fishing economy, he has the chance to go for a crazy economy. Let's see how he's going to open this one up with. Usually in this setup, you skip your Imperial Officer at the beginning because you're not going to be using the mill. You can still go for the Officer and just supervise that lumber camp. That's a legitimate strategy, but I would not be surprised if Cole just skipped that for some time and he would just go for the dock. We already have the dock up, and here comes Bad Koala coming in to harass that villager. There is no scout to be found nearby, so there's a chance that Cool is going to lose that villager. On the other side, we do have the same kind of aggression coming in, and ACCM is the first one to yoink a villager. Bad Koala tried to save that will with his fishing boat, and we also had Bhakti coming in with the Khan. But at the end of the day, that villager went down. On the other side, it looks like the villager does not go down because Cool comes back with his scout and scares away Bad Koala. So, ton of aggression at the beginning. Khans will have to be pretty active over here trying to intercept villagers. We do have a dock up though for Lix. Dock is up as well for Bad Koala right at the crossing. And for Mr.Yo, I don't see any. And you see ACCM is hunting for a villager that's coming forward. But there is just no villager coming for Yo just yet. Instead, Yo is going to open with the 2 spearmen here to discourage further aggression. Might actually even go forward and try to harass the fishing eco of the opponents. Cool has a dock up as well, coming up with fishing ships. Delhi player ACCM also has 2 fishing ships out as well. And it looks like we also have no docks for our Mongol players. So only 2 players will go for a dock. And we do have a scouts opening for Bhakti. So the scouts opening is an interesting idea because it allows you to get to the opponent's base quite fast and start burning down those docks. In particular, the HRE dock is what you're targeting, because the opponent's Delhi fishing ships can actually scare you away from that dock. But you can go for this dock in particular and try to burn it down. Yo's got the appropriate response with Spearman, and in fact, he's already coming forward with a tower, so he's going to try to tower the fishing eco of Cool here, supported by Spearman. That's going to be very difficult to stop. One of the advantages that you will be getting, though, when it comes to getting those scouts out, is that you will be able to grab professional scouts and ferry in deer if you want. Looks like Voz are coming in here for Lix. He's trying to stop that scout from killing the villager, but it looks like the Voz will go up to an acceptable level. Nice scout micro here by Lix. Lix is one of the best auxiliary players in the history of Age of Empires 2. So don't expect him to do anything flashy, but he's just exceptionally good when it comes to supporting his teammates. This time around, he tried to wall off this crossing to prevent aggression, but that's not gonna work out. I think there is still a gap here that you can pass, because you see there is still that holographic projection of the walls, so I think this is still something you can pass. But even if you cannot pass here, these walls are quite weak, so you can break through them quite easily. Meanwhile, on the other side, we do have a tower coming up for Bhakti to protect the back of ACCM's fishing eco. You see, the Mongol player is going to tower his teammates' fish. Meanwhile, on the other side, we do have a tower up for Mr.Yo. It's doing some damage to the fishing eco of Cool, but it's sort of minimal right now. With Bhakti having this many scouts out, he's able to grab quite a lot of sheep, and that's gonna help quite a bit. Bows are up for Cool, so there's gonna be no way for those spearmen to get to the back of this dock anytime soon. ACCM on the way to Feudal Age, and we'll probably have the rest of the players going up to Feudal soon. I can see one fishing ship being sent here to clean up those spearmen. That's always an option. And it looks like now Bhakti is moving up with his scouts. This dock could still be a target. It could be burned down quite easily by 6 scouts, and that's something that you have to consider here. Alternatively, as I said, professional scouts can work, especially if you already have a Gur up, and that's something that you have for Bhakti. He's going up with the silver tree, so we could see some trade boom going on. Whereas for Mr.Yo, he's not even going up at this point, so there's going to be a feudal age advantage for Bhakti here between the Mongol players. Another tower coming up here for Mr.Yo to secure that crossing. Fishing Eco is still alive for Cool though, and that's the most important thing. That tower is here, it's annoying, but it's not actively damaging Cool's economy. That's a pretty significant factor right now. Meanwhile, looking at Bhakti, this is the time to strike. He's about to hit Lix's gold mine over here, coming in with all the scouts to try and torch it down. Every single building that he sets on fire is going to give him resources, and with 5 scouts you can torch that building down quite fast. Notice the micro here from Bhakti. The moment he feels like his opponent is about to pull villagers, he's going to send away the scouts a couple tiles further from mine. And at this point, he's just forcing Lix to repair as much as possible. Looks like he can't burn down that mining camp without actually fighting the villagers. And Lix could still pop the emergency repairs ability of the HRE. So this isn't really gonna work, but it's idling one villager. It's annoying for Lix. So there's definitely some effect to that. Second dock up for Cool, so he's gonna be able to keep fishing for the time being. In the middle, we do have this crossing being walled off by ACCM as well. So both sides trying to prevent water aggression over here. Silver Tree is up, and it's not moving close to the Ovu just yet, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some trading going on. Especially if you have a safe left side over here, you can get some trade going. If one player makes a market in a corner, you can already use that Silver Tree to create effect. It's an archer range though for Bhakti, so would expect some archers to pop out pretty soon, potentially to try and support those scouts. Speaking of the scouts, we do have professional scouts coming in here, so with the Mongol player not having fishing economy, it makes sense to try and go pro scouts and probably even yoink that patch of huntables. Meanwhile, Barbican of the Sun coming in here for Cool, trying to secure this crossing. This is a pretty clever idea, because the Barbican of the Sun is a pretty powerful building. The firepower isn't impressive, but the HP is. So it's going to be very, very difficult to push through the middle here with just a handful of units. And the Barbican of the Sun should prevent any kind of crossing over here. By the way, the Khan is sort of stuck on this side, so Yo has to be careful here. Yo might try to harass those villagers, delaying the Barbican of the Sun, but he probably won't be able to. He's trying to hunt down that one scout, but here comes the light junk and a couple of fishing ships, and in the end, that Khan should not be able to kill the scout, I do believe. In fact, the Khan is going down. Yo lost his Khan as we were speaking, and now we got the scouts in. For Bhakti, Bhakti actually didn't pick up any huntables here, which is a little surprising. He probably finished professional scouts by now. He probably tried to burn down the dog, but that wasn't really something that he could pull off. Let's look at the resource income per minute, because the thing that really stands out to me is Cool. He has had a pretty decent food income, 600 plus, pretty decent wood income as well. His gold isn't spectacular, but obviously he's just going for a boom, and what we're seeing from him is already Song Dynasty. Imperial Palace in, he's got the villages coming, so Barbican of the Sun, Imperial Palace. He's on stone. So we will see a 2,000er Song Dynasty boom here from Cool. Meanwhile, we have archers moving forward in quite significant quantities. For Bhakti, a dock here from Lix was cancelled upon seeing all those forces coming forward, and I do believe that we'll see a forward dock here by ACCM. He's probably going to be the one that prioritizes water the most, as ACCM is already on the way to Castle Age. That's a very nice Castle Age timing out there. His fishing eco was untouched, so he's able to get to Castle Age quite rapidly over here. And a forward dock and Castle Age would mean that he can open up with Buglaws on the opponent's fishing eco the moment he hits Castle Age. Looks like he's just making gate for now. I think you can pass gates with ships. It looks stupid, but it works. Notice how we have towers coming up everywhere from Bhakti, so he's expanding that EM network quite rapidly. That's going to help reinforcing the battlefield. We still have a couple of towers from Yo harassing this fish, but so far it turns out to be just a booming game. Now, speaking of the booming game, we do have Bat Koala going up to Castle Age with the compound of the defender. The pocket player, Mr.Yo here, he doesn't have a spectacular economy right now. No professional scouts, no fishing eco, not something I'm impressed about. Whereas if you compare it to Bhakti, first of all, Bhakti's crawling up with towers closer and closer to the base of the opponent, now dropping one at the back of the wood line. But we also had a ton of scouts for Bhakti, so I wouldn't be surprised to see those being used to pick up some hunt. And of course, the biggest thing is Pool having that crazy boom. Pool has 53 eco already. With the Song Dynasty, 2,000ers are up, fishing eco is up. He's gonna have a spectacular eco. We got some junks over here to prevent any towers from coming up. On the left side, we got some knights moving in, so the tower from Bhakti will be denied. It's the first knight on the field for Lix. Obviously, for him, getting the relics into the Ragnitz Cathedral is #1 priority. There is some relics in the middle, and currently the middle is in the hands of White Wolf Palace, so I don't think Lix is gonna have a major issue picking up relics. In fact, he already has 3. Looks like in the middle we have men-at-arms coming in, probably some archers or crossbowmen support as well. These barracks are already being empowered by scholars, and so will the archer range be. Meanwhile, Bhakti is just slowly crawling up on the left side. He got a ton of archers hiding in stealth forests, but he wasn't really active with that army so far. Still, at this point, Pool's got a nice fishing eco, and that's helping a lot. And what you're seeing right now is Song Dynasty being left quite fast. He didn't spend a lot of time in Song Dynasty, and he's going for his... Actually, never mind. That's the first landmark only. I thought he's already in Castle Age, but nope, that's not the case. So he's staying in Song Dynasty for now, and going for the Clock Tower. Ultimately, he's gonna play Fire Lancers here, I'm fairly certain about that one. So I would expect Yuan Dynasty to come in at around villager number 90, 95 or so. Because that's the domain where you no longer need the Song Dynasty villager production boost, and you want to start working towards Yuan. Looking at the resources real quickly, Lix, it looks like he is not going into Imperial. Actually, no, that's a blacksmith. No, Lix is not going into Imperial, which is a little surprising. A lot of proxy warfare going on with some skirmishes coming in here. Oh, Lix! Oh, Lix! For those of you that don't know Lix, these are the type of things that he usually does. Random forward stable coming in to produce knights, and that's gonna be super annoying for Bhakti to deal with. Bhakti's got some hardened spears out, but he probably wasn't expecting a stable in his face over here. He had so many towers out here. Just attack notifications everywhere from those towers. Finally, Bhakti starts to ferry in the hunt, better late than never. Now he sees those knights, but he wasn't really expecting that forward, that's for sure. Hardened Spearmen are only Feudal Age units, whereas the Knights are Castle Age, so this is a rather decent fight here for Lix. He's able to save the majority of his Knights, and that's what matters the most. But Bhakti didn't lose a single villager behind this one. Also some Knights on the right side, I didn't see these. At first I had to comprehend the colors, because obviously with all these colors going on, I had to first look at whose elephant is that, but it looks like it's going to be one tower elephant for ACCM trying to help out Cool here. Lix, once again, doing what he does best, disrupt other players. And this is exactly the playstyle that White Wolf Palace had for years. Lix is the one that's playing aggressive, doing stuff like sniping one Imperial officer, and then it just lets Yo and Vivi have a completely untouched game and then snowball this. That's exactly what Lix is just so good at. And that's why he's not going into Imperial, he's spending his resources on Knights. Holy potatoes, there is more. There is 2 more stables here for a grand total of 3, and now Lix is making barracks. So at this point, it's all about Lix disrupting everything, and then behind this one, Bat Koala and Yo just building up their forces in the middle. Elephants are coming in. We already have one sacred site under the control of Bat Koala over here, as Lix is getting ready to push with the Knights. The problem that White Wolf Palace is facing right now, though, is first of all, ACCM has some Buglas coming in, those gates work out nicely. Meanwhile, Bat Koala rushes up some stone walls. What even is this? Bat Koala just sent in the men-at-arms with the compound defender, and he just rushed up some stone walls to prevent the Buglas from breaking through. They are still able to get through. Demos are coming in as a response from Lix. There's also demo ship coming in from ACCM. Let's see if Lix can get a nice hit in. This could be the perfect timing. This could be the perfect timing. Those Buglas are a little clumped up. Demo pops out for Lix on the wrong side. And it's now pursuing all those demolition ships. ACCM trying to trade it off and escape with the Buglas. And it very much seems like ACCM is just disengaging with his own demolition ship. The demolition ship from Lix is doing minimal damage to the Buglas, whereas for the demo from ACCM sinks most of the fishing eco from Lix, going deeper and deeper into the fish of Bat Koala. In the middle, we have a ton of stone walls coming in, stone wall towers even built by Bat Koala. Behind this, we got some Knights coming in once again from Lix. He is up to Imperial 8, so he can go for Elite Knights, but obviously, first of all, he's going to play with the Palace of Swabia. Those stone wall towers built on those sections of stone walls do have the old springolds, so they have 60 base attack still. They're able to take down fish quite rapidly. Response is also stone walls from Cool, so very similar approach for both. Looks like we have elephants coming in here to try and clean up the Knights. ACCM even tried a conversion, but that didn't really work out. Knights are doing an exceptional work here for Lix, though. I want to highlight Lix's performance. 44 kills, 31 deaths, and he's been aggressive and he's been killing villagers. And that's part of the reason why Cool isn't able to pull ahead that much in terms of economy. He has been harassed so much by Lix's forces, and this is just a nightmare to clean up. Lix keeps trickling in knights into the opponent's economy, and it is just something that delays the Vietnamese team a ton. Here comes a forward blacksmith, somewhat surprisingly, as we will probably have some more towers coming up for Yo to try and deny the fishing eco. Ton of things going on at the same time, as we got some stone walls being built by Bat Koala. Scouts from Backty still trying to yoink some hunt for themselves. Meanwhile, we have one sacred site for each team as we speak. Knights finally cleaned up by ACCM's crossbowmen. In the middle, we have just an absolute chaos. Trebuchet is out for Mr.Yo, already shelling these towers. I would expect some trebuchets as well, but Cool is going up to Imperial with the Spirit Way. So, no Yuan Dynasty just yet. He's going up with the Spirit Way for now. Wait a minute. He's in Yuan. He's got granaries. Okay, now, clock is ticking. Holy potatoes. There is a ton of things going on throughout the map with all those attack notifications, and I just randomly switched over here, and we do get a gigantic demo explosion, killing all those scouts, carrying the deer. It even killed the sheep following, I do believe, so all the carcasses are lost, all the sheep are gone. Oh my goodness, there's so many things happening at the same time. So, Cool is up to Imperial Age, and he's got Yuan Dynasty as well. So he's ready to go for the Fire Lancers, which means clock is ticking for White Wolf Palace to do something against that. We got some stone walls coming in for both players. Villagers are building it for ACCM, whereas Men-at-Arms are building it for Bat Koala. ACCM aged up with the House of Insanely Slow Learning, owned Blades. Another 7 minutes to wait. Meanwhile, for Mr.Yo, he's getting barracks up on the battlefield, also markets, so he can actually use this to make true traders at the same time, close to the Ovu, just like his opponent would be able to do with the Silver Tree. Get some relics in for ACCM. On the left side, Spearman raids coming in from Bhakti. Elite Knights should not have any major issue dealing with this one, and we have Lix with the Villager Pinner, so Palace of Schwabia should be able to compensate for the losses that Lix had. Bhakti has some proxy forces over here, but considering that we now have Stone Walls coming up, I don't think that Bhakti is going to be able to do much with that. Another keep on the way. No bombards just yet from either Imperial Age player, as we see some Veteran Spearmen out. And that is what should scare everybody today. Elite Fire Lancers. Now keep in mind that we have so many stone walls around the map that the players will have to cross the rivers at some point, and that's where demolition ships can do a lot. A couple of spearmen still harassing Lix over here. Lix apparently not reacting super fast to this one. He also is lacking the HP upgrade on the villagers, so the villagers will be poked down by the spearmen quite rapidly. Still, that's a quite decent force of elite knights now. That's probably going to be the main unit for Lix to play with. Lix still has his stables up here, and he could quietly mass some knights once again to raid, and those in general will be very, very annoying to deal with. That's exactly what he's doing, getting some more knights in to raid. Sneaky elephants for Bad Koala in that stealth forest, and we do see some bombards moving out both for Lix and for Mr.Yo. Well, we got a ship that has been praised by many, many players. A Baoshan, I think that's how you pronounce it. A cannon ship for the Chinese in Imperial Age. Ton of cannons on it, a lot of firepower, very, very tanky ship as well. So it is exceptionally good when it comes to destroying buildings, and that's exactly what it's doing. It also just killed that bombard like crazy. Some more knights coming in from Lix. Will do minimal damage. I feel like now Bhakti is ready for all those knight raids, and ACCM is pursuing all those knights with the elite knights, or the elephants, excuse me for that. So many things going on at the same time, and one of that is Men-at-Arms killing 2 scholars from ACCM. Bad Koala is neutralizing that sacred side, but on the left, we have Woes up from ACCM. Woes up as well for Bad Koala. Raiding Knights are slowly getting cleaned up by the Spearmen of Cool. He did lose quite a lot of villagers, which is definitely annoying for him though, so if you look at the KD, I really want to give a credit to Lix, 91 to 56. And here comes the Baoshan now, and it's going to start opening up against those War Elephants. 2 Baoshan plus the Fire Lancers. Fire Lancers apparently choosing a weird path to travel though. I'm not sure if that was the plan. The plan is a landing. The plan is a landing, ladies and gentlemen. We have transport ships coming in here from ACCM. They don't want to cross over here. They want to cross elsewhere. Use the transport ships and drop them off on this side. Oh my goodness. 2 transports are out. We'll drop off the first batch of Fire Lancers, and the next wave is already coming in here. Here comes the cavalry. Pool is also dropping some more dogs for Baoshan. It looks like one of the transports weren't dropped off though, so there's still 16 over there that you could drop off. A little weird from ACCM, but there's probably a lot of things happening at the same time. Lix is coming in with the demos! Lix is coming in with the demos! And that is going to be the entire landing operation just smashed in the face. Where did those demos come from? They obviously come from a forward dock from Lix. And as I said, many players that have been watching Age of Empires 4 probably don't know who Lix is. This is Lix. He's been doing this for years. All these forwards, and as I said, he's not a spectacular player, but he just always seems to be there where he can annoy the opponents the most. Couple of archers that could harass Lix's gold mining operation over here as his forward is finally getting cleaned up. But this single dock over here, it's so simple, yet it's so impactful. A hawk defending it, and now you got those demos coming in to try and sink another landing operation over here. Knowing Lix, he probably has the explosives upgrade on them already, so these are actual nuclear torpedoes that you're seeing over here. Here they come. Say goodbye to these villagers out here, say goodbye to this dock, because this is just going to go down in a matter of seconds. Looks like they're going for a Baoshan though. And those are expensive combat ships. The first one is gonna be sunk, so will the second one. And look at this. Even this tower is gonna be set on fire, so now it's burning down quite rapidly. Knight being sent to clean up the archers. And it looks like we're in for a very, very long game over here. We got the stables finally being taken down. Fire Lancers, though, breaking through the middle. Because the land army is still much bigger for Cool's team, and there's just no answer to those Fire Lancers just yet. There's a couple of Spearmen coming in, but Spearmen have a pretty low base HP, so a successful charge from the Fire Lancers could work out nicely. It depends on whether or not the Spearmen are able to brace. If they can brace, this is perfectly fine for Yo, because the Fire Lancers won't be able to use their area damage, but that's a ton of Fire Lancers, and you see, if the Spearmen are facing forward, then the Fire Lancers have the chance to just charge him from behind. They can also just run around and kill the barracks. Elephants now moving in large numbers as well, some hand cannoneers supporting. The unit that's very underappreciated against War Elephants, but their base attack is actually something that's very, very helpful. Fire Lancers, they're actually going for the Ovu. That's a clever move from Cool. That is the Ovu gone, and with that, the double training ability gone for Mr.Yo. Quite a lot of spears are out, but you see at this point, I think Cool is just sniping buildings. In the middle, we do have better elephant numbers, I do believe, for Bad Koala, though. Fairly sizable force of War Elephants in here. Down south, some more demos are once again coming in. 3 Bao Shuan as they're trying to clean up those towers that are controlling the river, but Lix is not giving up. One demo goes down, the second one goes down, but here comes 2 more, and that's going to be very expensive cannon ship. Once again, pushed to the bottom of this river. Looks like the demos don't trigger those, so it's not gonna be as good as it could have possibly been, but still damaging those Bao Shuan quite nicely. Some more elephants coming in. ACCM is mostly operating with tower elephants, whereas on the other side we have more melee elephants for Bad Koala. Looks like Lix is coming forward with towers, though. So will he come forward with some barracks, some elite knights also hitting the field. Not a ton of army for Bhakti. He's gonna have to make something against those HRE forces soon. Meanwhile, looking at the elephants, I feel like they're ready to go. They're ready to go, and with the improved siege upgrade for the Mongols, the Spearmen can also make traction trebuchets. So, trebs can be a thing here for Mr.Yo. Fire Lancers, where are they? They're just nowhere to be found. There's a couple of them over here, but not a ton. If you look at the population of Cool, he's at 126 only, so many of those Fire Lancers got cleaned up by the Spearmen. And now I feel like you're playing with fire over here. You are fighting in a river crossing where Lix is able to use demos at. This keep is missing boiling oil, which means that the elephants beneath it won't actually suffer from a ton of damage. There's also Scholar down below to heal. Hand cannoneers are in though for ACCM, and those are going to do a ton of damage to the elephants. Not going to be a cost-efficient fight in the long run for White Wolf Palace, but here comes the swarm of spearmen. And while hand cannoneers are pretty decent when it comes to dealing with mass infantry, mass light infantry is something that can deal very nicely with the hand cannoneers. Mangonel will be the response from Mr.Yo immediately. On the left side, we do have some Lancers coming in from Bhakti to try and stop this aggression. But here comes the big push. I think what you need is a demo here. A single demolition ship could sink everything. Here comes Cool, and this could be a game-winning move. Yo is trying to run away from the causeway, and it looks like the demo does trigger, but it does minimal damage. Here comes another demo though, ACCM, and there goes the army of Yo. That demolition ship did not have the explosives upgrade. If it had the explosives, it would have been all the spearmen wiped out. But even without that, that was just a spectacular blast and just nuking the entire army of Mr.Yo. He is going to rebuild that in a matter of seconds, so it's not really a concern for him. But ACCM needs to start getting that explosives upgrade, or probably it's better for Cool to do that, simply because ACCM will need a lot more time to grab it. The Mangonel actually does get a nice shot in. Some Chinese bombards, though, with 12 range, will help quite a bit sniping down all those siege weapons, and now we're seeing clock tower bombards hitting the field. On the left side, it's a force from Bhakti that's slowly crawling up, and I feel like now Vietnam Legends is starting to be in control. They have the power of the Chinese bombards, they're holding this causeway, and on the left side they're pushing quite relentlessly. Lix hiding forces in that stealth forest, ready to jump on those elite lancers. In this one, was coming up here for Bad Koala to slow this one down as much as possible, but with the spearman support of Bhakti, these knights are likely going to be cleaned up. The Vos, I don't think they'll be finished, but even if they are, the Bombards will take care of that. So now, Bacti's gonna start pushing on the right side, and in the middle, the Bombards will slowly crawl up and start grinding down those buildings. The silver tree is being placed in this very corner for Bacti, so they're starting to realize that the mineable gold is running out. Most of the gold that's left is in the middle, and that's under the control of White Wolf Palace right now. So they'll have to start setting up trade. You see, there's already one market up for coal. Vietnam Legends is about to start trading. Some trading also being set up as well for White Wolf Palace. Here come the Spearmen and the Lancers, and soon this corner that they are planning to trade with is going to be gone. Because you want to trade from corner to corner, that's not going to be an option with all those Lancers coming in to raid. Defensive barracks coming in for Licks. His best choice here would be to go Men-at-Arms with the 200 weapons and maces, but he's still lacking upgrades. He's also mixing in some Landsknechte as we have a push coming through the middle. This force is just insanely hard to stop. Hand Cannoneers supported by Bombards is just very difficult to deal with, because the Bombards can snipe down any siege weapons and the Hand Cannoneers have insane firepower. The only thing that's missing is good meat shield from in front, and I think that they are just about to lure White Wolf Palace into that causeway. An enormous amount of spearmen coming in, but look at this. ACCM has 4 demos massed in here. They know exactly that Yo will try to jump on this force, and I wouldn't be surprised to see those demos being popped any moment now. Here they come. Let's see if Yo is going to react. Yo is going to pull his forces away just in time. He was expecting demos, so he's going to live another day here. We still have some forces, though, from Bacti breaking into Yo's base. Licks coming in with some Men-at-Arms, some Fire Lancers also join the fun over here. Licks with the defensive castle. Licks is gonna have to hold this one alone. Now, he's gonna be able to do that with full upgraded Men-at-Arms because they do beat Spearmen and they will perform nicely against Elite Lancers as well. But Licks is definitely the one absorbing a ton of that damage. Bombards slowly crawling forward. Or cool, they're trying to take down this keep over here. The keep is likely going down as well. A lot of stables also went down already from Bad Koala, so slowly but surely the Vietnam Legends are crawling up and starting to grind down White Wolf Palace over here. Villagers making that castle, they might not even be able to finish it, but even if they do, this castle is going to fall in just a matter of seconds to that bombard, but it looks like this will turn into a doubt castle. The keep is not going up, and that way Lix's base will remain open. Now Men-at-Arms coming in with the maces, so it's going to be a little easier to clean this up, but here comes the Fire Lancer snipe. And that's something that many people are scared about. Fire Lancers diving in and sniping your landmarks is always something that you have to be very, very cautious about. There is a relic being brought in here, though, by Bad Koala to try and get the conversion on the Fire Lancers. The Fire Lancers do snipe the Monk. There is the Ragnitz Cathedral gone, and you already have the Town Center on fire. Aken Chapel nearby, and there is the Palace of Schwabia, so you could knock Licks out of this game with those Fire Lancers. He's pursuing relentlessly with the Knights to try and clean this one up, repairing the Ragnitz Cathedral, repairing the Town Center, so this wave of Fire Lancers won't be enough. But Licks has to divert pretty much all of his forces to clean this up, and that gives a window for Bacti to push this. Over here in the middle, we do have a slow crawl as well by ACCM and Cool, and now I feel like White Wolf Palace is in full retreat. Cool is at 200 population, 185 for Yo, 200 for Bacti, 200 for ACCM pretty much, only 176 for Licks. And while Bad Koala has 200 population, and he's got, in theory, 113 military numbers, most of these are melee elephants that are not being used right now. So, the biggest problem for White Wolf Plus is that they are just unable to use their army right now. This corner has been denied for trading, so if they lose the middle, they will start losing their gold income as well, and it very much seems like they're losing the middle because the bombards are just crawling up. Yo's production here will go down. Yo pulling back all the spearmen just to fight off all these cannon and the spearmen of the opponent. Yo's army isn't particularly population efficient, it is only spearmen, whereas if you look at ACCM's army, having the option to go for that many hand cannoneers is definitely helpful. Baoshuan still coming in here because, guess what? Mr.Yo is coming in with forward docks. Yo is not giving up. He's made 4 docks over here, coming in with light junks and Baoshuan to try and push this side. I'm not sure what exactly he could accomplish with this because I feel like it might be a little too far gone in the middle, but maybe he can push this side and start controlling that causeway, cut off reinforcements. That's always an option. Lancer is now running into a ton of spearmen from Yo, so this is probably going to be a retreat by Vietnam Legends, but they know exactly there is blood in the water because they're slowly crawling up through the middle and they're going to start bombarding these walls. These melee elephants, I'm not exactly sure how well they will perform against this army, although there is no meat shield in front of that army of hand cannoneers, so once they close the distance, they could work out very, very nicely. Elephants just crawling up over here, hand cannoneers unleashing one volley, taking down like 50% of that elephant's HP, but that's a ton of elephants here. And with the tower elephants shooting from behind, they can grind down those retreating hand cannon numbers quite nicely. The tower war elephants actually don't have the crossbow upgrade for bad call, and it looks like the elephants absorbing damage and the tower war elephants just delivering the damage work very nicely over here for White Wolf Palace. And this is the time where Yo is going to start moving up with his own ships, and they just want to trap that army in that middle area. Bombard setting up now. That is 5 clock tower bombards though. Some elephants coming in to reinforce this one. This is a beautiful choke point for Cool to hold. The barriers just prevent those elephants from jumping on those bombards. Still, it looks like they're able to close the distance, but behind this one, many elephants fall to the hand cannoneers. So, while this might seem like an okay fight for Bad Koala, I really don't think it is. It is most of the elephants getting taken down. And on the right side, Yo isn't particularly making progress. On the left, though, we got some knights inside the base of Lix. Still a huge force of knights for Lix, but we have sacred sites under the control of the Vietnamese team. They just got the control of the Ordet, so it's going to be 45 minutes of a time when it comes to the sacred site victory. Elephants now launching counterattack on the left side. Elephants will perform quite nicely against those Lancers in straight-up combat. Obviously, they will be lacking mobility. Lix still struggling to clean this one up, sending some Spearmen back. Deal with this, no elite upgrade on those. Yo, still trying to push this side. On the left, it looks like the stone walls are still standing. We got some towers up here, but it looks like this push from the left side is stalling out for Vietnam. But here comes another batch of Fire Lancers. By Cool, we haven't seen a lot of that just yet. They're probably going for the keep, and then they will try to jump on Lix's base here. In the middle, once again, the hand cannoneers scroll up. They blast their way through those walls. And right now, despite the fact that Bad Cola is at 105 military population, you just see very, very little of that on the battlefield. Another keep coming in the middle. He's just now grabbing boiling oil. Spring Golden placement coming in as well. Quite a lot of elephants are on the left side though, and I feel like one thing that you could do is counterattack this one with Lix's Knights. Here come the Fire Lancers though, and Cool already tried one landmark snipe. He's gonna try it again. You see Lix is sending villagers to repair all those landmarks. Quite a lot of spears are in here though, supported by knights, so I'm not sure how many Fire Lancers can survive this engagement over here. Direct push coming through the middle though. We have some Xebecs over here. This is the cannon ship of the Delhi Sultanate and the Abbasid dynasty, not something that you see every day. So another ship that you don't regularly see. Not just the Baoshuan, but the Xebecs are also hitting the field. Looks like Bakhti is going to be able to hold off these elephants with all the spearmen and the cannon, but the Fire Lancers have mostly been cleaned up from what I see. Horsemen hitting the field here now for Bad Koala. Horsemen will perform quite nicely against those hand cannoneers as they blast their way through these walls. Once again, just attack notifications flashing everywhere on the map. Looks like the elephants will be able to deal with most of these spearmen supported by the knights, and that's going to mean that we could have the bombards going down. Stone walls coming up, and one thing that the Fire Lancers can't burn down is stone walls. Looks like these Fire Lancers still came in to try and raid the eco now that they're unable to take down the landmarks, but most of them will get cleaned up by the spearmen or the knights, so they will be able to do minimal damage. There is, by the way, the White Stupa, I believe, for Mr.Yo as his Imperial Age landmark, so he's getting an infinite trickle of stone. In particular, Yo is sitting at actually just 400 stone. Not spectacular right now, so he's been using that quite actively. Fire Lancer still trying to do some damage. Khan even popping the defense arrow here for the villagers. This should be a cleanup. On the left side, the wars are being rebuilt, so even though Bacti is gonna have the Spearmen and the Lancers in here, he won't really be able to take a good fight and break through these walls. Spearmen coming in here, you're going to need to pull your knights back if you're Licks, because these are very expensive knights that are being taken down. What you probably want to do is pull these knights back, loop around here, get through these walls, and go for a raid and use your own spearmen to fight this one. A couple of Landsknecht are also in here, and that's going to help quite a bit. In this clustered up situation, having that area damage helps a lot. In comes a massive force of Fire Lancers supported by Hand Cannoneers. And the Fire Lancers will just disintegrate all those Horsemen, the Horsemen not even having the Elite upgrade. I feel like this is a bait here by the Vietnamese team. If you look at the POV of Bad Koala, they don't know about the Fire Lancers. All they know about is the Hand Cannoneers and the cannons, and now the bait is working because the Fire Lancers are just charging in, absolutely smashing that army of Horsemen. And that is a scary force of Fire Lancers if I've ever seen one. Numbering 58 Fire Lancers, Cool is at 107 military, bombards with the clock tower, of course, and then 50 plus Fire Lancers. They're coming in. They will lose significant numbers to the castle fire here, but I do believe that now is just a full raid that's coming in. And you do have a scary push on the left side by Licks and Bad Koala, but that's a slow push. Whereas this force of Fire Lancers will just go apparently for Mr.Yo, spreading out, looking for those landmarks. There is the starting town center around here. There is the White Stupa. The rest of them is a little more difficult to find, and it looks like they might be going for a Delhi player, actually. That is one landmark to go. The Delhi player is going to have a tough time cleaning this up because Horsemen aren't particularly good at dealing with Fire Lancers. And behind this one, looks like this crossing is going to be guarded by demolition ships now, so there is no longer a chance to break through with the Fire Lancers. Behind this one, you are going to have a countdown still going for the Sacred Site victory. So about 5 minutes left. And with that, if White Wolf Palace isn't able to neutralize one of these Sacred Sites, they will lose this game, regardless of these Fire Lancer raids. Meanwhile, on the left side, though, we have the men-at-arms coming in, and they're actually getting very close to neutralizing the Sacred Site. On the left side, defensive castle coming in here for ACCM. The second landmark, the Dome of Fate, is under attack as well. There is the town center, and then you need to take down the compound of the defender over here for Cool to finish this one. Yo even sending in some bombards to deal with this. They will be able to take down the Fire Lancers, so the snipes don't work once again, but just look at this. Demolition ships coming in here to sink those clock tower bombards. Behind this one, another force of Fire Lancers is established, and I do believe that they will switch focus. They're realizing that, look, at this point, the easiest way to go when it comes to victory might be that Sacred Site victory. 4 minutes remaining. On the other hand, the Chinese team is rather close to breaking through here. It's only a single layer of wall, and they could neutralize that Sacred Site, reset the timer. Fire Lancers now hiding in that stealth forest in the middle. Quite a lot of barracks up on the field for ACCM. Let's take a quick look at the resource income while we have a somewhat peaceful moment, especially the gold income. Bacti sitting at 4,000 gold per minute. That is just brutal. He still has a ton of gold miners with the step redoubt, and he also has some traders, so that's why. And I do believe that he's slinging some of his teammates a lot, especially Cool, who has 80 gold per minute, so you need a sling in order to be able to continuously produce Fire Lancers here. Quite a good trade as well for Mr.Yo's team, and you do have the outposts set up to boost the YAM speed out here. 3 minutes remaining from the Sacred Site victory. Here comes the force of Mr.Yo, though, fairly sizable army of spearmen that can brace against the Fire Lancers, plus some cannon support from our Mongol player, some horsemen, and some war elephants. Meanwhile, on the left side, you do have multiple siege workshops coming in for ACCM. Wouldn't be surprised to see him just trying to fortify this position with some bombards. In the middle, elephants are slowly crawling up. About 2.5 minutes remaining from the Sacred Site victory. Indeed, there is the countdown. 2 minutes remaining, so it's going to be 45:04. Fire Lancer is now charging in. The Spearmen do brace against this one, so it turned out to be a sort of a disastrous fight here. For Cool, he's trying to snipe down the Bombards, obviously, by himself sometime, and instead he's going to try and rush through the middle, but this could turn out to be a disaster. There's a demolition ship in here, and all you gotta do is right-click, the stone walls finish in time, and the demolition ship is going to wipe out the entire army. Holy potatoes! And that might actually be something that gives a glimpse of a hope for White Wolf Palace. They're 1.5 minutes away from defeat, but that was like 50 Fire Lancers getting absolutely smacked in the face. On the left, it looks like Lix is crawling closer and closer to that sacred site, but his forward is being slowed down, and it's only 1 minute now. Manganos crawling up once again. Does Yo's team have enough momentum to neutralize the sacred site? That's the question. Does he have enough momentum? You see, keeps towers being dropped everywhere. ACCM knows exactly that the countdown is still going on, and I feel like, is it possible that Yo's team doesn't know the countdown is on? Because they haven't really been super aggressive moving for those sacred sites. You could have tried breaking through over here. It's only a single layer. Run in with cavalry to neutralize it. Because the clock is still ticking. 30 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining and Vietnam Legends will win this game. I still believe that they were ahead for a long time. So probably even without that sacred site victory, they would have the edge. But after losing all those Fire Lancers to that blast, it might give a hope to Mr.Yo's team. But the game is over. The game is over. I was just about to say that there's like 5 seconds remaining on that sacred site countdown, and just when the army starts popping out for Yo's team, I think they just forgot about that countdown. I legitimately think they just forgot about that countdown, because to me it very much seemed like they were just pushing too slowly. They had their option to neutralize the sacred site on the left. I don't think that they had the momentum to neutralize the one in the middle, but they could have gone for the one on the left. Spectacular game over here, and I'm not gonna lie, that demolition blast at the end was one of the best moments of Age of Empires 4. People have been saying how powerful Fire Lancers are, and I feel like a very significant portion of the people that are watching this feel some satisfaction when it comes to just getting 50 plus Fire Lancers deleted by a demolition ship. Oh my goodness. In the end, it is 64,000 food for Mr.Yo, 61,000 gold for Lakes. That Ragnate's Cathedral is working wonders. 58 grand as well for Bacti though. Military KD, 668 kills for Lakes. Those demolition ships worked magic. Not just the one that killed the Fire Lancers, but the ones before. We also had some nice demo ships from ACCM over here. In the end, 308 kills against 207 deaths out there. And with that, Vietnam Legends takes game number 2. I was hoping for this team matchup to be good, and so far it is delivering. Now we need to reset ourselves mentally. And that's going to be very challenging, I must say, because whenever you have a long game, something that goes into post-Imperial, a lot of action going on, it's difficult to go back into a scenario where you have just, Dark Age, some forces fighting, no spectacular big demo hits, but this was one of the best team games I have seen for a long time, and I'm hoping for a couple more in this show match, because it is only game number 2. We have 3 more games to go potentially. So the civilization selection rules are pretty simple. You cannot pick the civilizations that you picked in the directly preceding game. So game number 3, you won't be able to pick the civilizations that you used in game number 2. So no Chinese, Delhi, and Mongols for the Vietnamese team, and no Holy Roman Empire, Mongols, Delhi for White Wolf Palace, but they will be able to repick the civilizations that they used in game number 1, so they will be able to go for English, French, Rus once again. Now, if we are seeing an open map, something like High View, English, French, Rus makes some sense, but if we are going for something like Ancient Spires, things could get a little spicier. Oh, Cool is saying feel bad with demo. I mean, You probably felt bad, but I'm fairly certain that the viewers felt very good. Oh boy. Like, I have to say that demolition ships are a little broken with the explosive stack. Like, they actually work like nuclear weapons. They can wipe out armies from like 10 tiles distance. And there is something oddly satisfactory about that. I think that they're a little broken, especially with the explosives unique tech, so you shouldn't have that big of a range on them. But one thing is sure, watching those crazy demo blasts is definitely satisfying. Okay, so now we're going to the home map of the White Wolf Palace team. Are you still 80% H4, 20% H2? Sort of, yes. More like 90-10. But yes, I will be focusing for the next couple of months going on, mostly on AoE4. I might do AoE2 stuff every once in a while, but my priority is on AoE4. I really don't have the energy or time to do both. And if I do both, it decreases the quality of both because I'll be confusing some stuff. I've said this example before. In AoE2, it's called Britons. In AoE4, it's English. And if you confuse the two, then it sounds stupid. So I want to focus on doing one thing right, and that is going to be AoE4. I hope. Anyways, let's see if we have the civilizations for the next game. I wonder if Vivi is going to step in because Vivi is right now in a game. I do assume that as he wasn't playing in this one, he just went to play on a game. So I wonder if he's going to come back or Bad Koala is just going to play the next game again. So looking at the maps real quickly, while we are waiting. So Ancient Spires is an option, Border Bay is an option. We use Danube River right now. I feel like the open maps worked really well for White Wolf Palace, so I can see High View being a thing. Lipany is technically an option as well, so you get some decent open maps to go for. But if you want to go for a slower paced game, something like Hillandale, you could go for that. The other thing that you want to consider is that you just picked a certain set of civilizations, and your opponent did so as well. So, for example, Chinese is gone for game number 3 for Vietnam Legends, which means that if you want to go for Hillandale and use Chinese there for White Wolf Palace, this is the right time to do it, because if you do it in game number 4, your opponent's team will have Chinese once again. So you might consider a map where Chinese Mongols would be a very powerful combination and your opponent won't have Chinese. Is it best of 3 or best of 5? Best of 5. So we could have 3 more games over here. Let's hope that we're going to have some more entertaining games out here. Lix is in a lobby, back the ACCM also in a lobby, so we're getting that set up. Oh boy, oh boy. I'm still just thinking about that big demolition ship blast because that was just oddly satisfying. There is a lot of interesting things with AoE4 team games because there's just a ton of things going on. It's way more intense than AoE2 team games, so I'm still in the situation that I have to set myself mentally in a way that there is always going to be something that's going to be overlooked. So, if you noticed what I was doing during this cast, I was sort of just focusing on the fights for the majority of the game simply because there's just no time to look at the economies of the players. In AoE2, the combat in team games is a little slower paced, so sometimes you have some time to discuss economy situations and stuff like that. In this game, you just don't have that window. Like, I couldn't even see what landmarks the players aged up with because there was just continuous fighting going on at like 3 different locations, and I just need to look at the fights, otherwise, we're going to miss some spectacular demo blasts, right? Okay, so Vivi is done. So let's see if Vivi is going to step in place of WWP player. Yo and Lix are in the lobby, so it's possible it's going to be Yo, Lix, and Vivi. So Bad Koala is going to take the bench now. Will you have a co-caster in tourney? Yes, I do have a list of people, and most of you will be very happy about that list. I'm fairly certain. So yes, I will have co-casters. Not sure if that's going to be the case for qualifiers, especially because many of the people that I'm planning to cast with might actually play the qualifiers, um, or some of them might just not be available for that weekend. But for the main event, 100% sure I do want to bring in co-casters for all of them. The tournament itself is going to be played in the next 2 weeks. So 8th and 9th of January is going to be the semifinals, or semifinals. What am I talking about? My brain is melting down. So 8th and 9th of January is qualifiers. First two rounds on the 8th, and then the round of 16th will be played on 9th Sunday. In the first day of the qualifiers, we'll have overlapping games, so we'll have to select what we're casting. And what's going to happen is for the 9th of January, we'll have the round of 16th. We'll have 4 sets or 4 time frames, and in each time frame, we'll have 2 parallel sets going on. So streamers can choose whichever they want to cast. Simply because, due to time limitations, we couldn't have 8 sets right after each other. So we'll have 4 time frames and 2 overlapping sets in each of those time frames. And what I'm gonna do is that I will be covering one of them live, and the other one is going to be from recorded games. So starting round of 16th, everything is going to be recorded, and everything is going to be uploaded to YouTube as well. And when it comes to the main event, quarterfinals will start at the 13th of January. 2 quarterfinals each day. So 13th, 14th quarterfinals, 15th semifinals, and 16th is a grand finals. The quarterfinals and semifinals will be best of fives, and the grand finals will be best of seven. Initially, we considered best of seven, best of nine, but we've been monitoring the length of team games, and in the end, we decided to reduce that to best of five, best of seven. So the qualifiers will be best of threes, and then once we get to the main event, it's going to be best of five, except the grand finals, which is going to be best of seven. Okay, so we do have the civilizations. I wasn't told the map, but it's going to be French, Rus, and English for both teams. So I'm assuming we're going to have an open map. Maybe something like Lipany, something like Highview. Makes some sense for White Wolf Palace. They seem to be quite powerful in there. Whereas for Vietnam Legends, they were much more of the long late game players so far. They perform pretty well in this post-game late game scenario. They also have a very, very economy focused approach. So you could see the Chinese Song Dynasty boom, but also in game number 1, Cool going for 2 TCs plus the King's Palace. For ACCM adding a second town center early as well. So the Vietnamese team seems to have a tiny bit more focus on economy. So open maps might not necessarily go that well for them unless they adjust their strategy, because White Wolf Palace seems to be pretty aggressive on these. In we go to game number 3. It takes some time for the players to load it up. Obviously, this is something that I'm expecting for a tournament. It takes some time to set up the games for the players, because especially after a long game like the previous one of the biggest questions or one of the biggest problems is that the players will take some time to rest, like they need a bathroom break whatsoever, and then they need to join the lobby as well. Okay, is the game spectatable? That's the question, because game says they're in a game, but the observe button is unavailable, so that's going to be a game restart for me. Let's hope that they enabled spectators. I certainly hope they did, but I might need to restart my game for that. If not, we'll just ask them to start. So no worries on that department. Not the end of the world, but hopefully it didn't forget to set it to be spectatable. Okay, fingers crossed. Let's hope it's spectatable. Sometimes the game just randomly turns off the spectating feature, so that's what usually causes issues. That you have that set up and then it just turns it off. Okay, it looks like they are restarting it though. There's a chance someone crashed because they're no longer in game, so couple more moments of waiting. I apologize for the YouTube audience for that. I might just do timestamps down below this video so that you can skip these parts, but obviously when I'm casting live, well, I can't just jump into a game that's not being played at this moment. So, yeah, they're gonna have to reset the lobby, it seems. Probably someone crashed. That's the most common reason why you can or you have to reset the lobby. One player crashes on load up, so you're gonna have to reset it for everybody else. So ACCM is in, Yo is in as well. That also means that ACCM and Yo will be the pockets because the way that you can pick positions is by having the players that want to play pocket position join the lobby first. So the host of the lobby should be a pocket, and the first player from the opponent should also be a pocket that joins into the lobby. And then this way, you basically say, okay, we're the two pockets, and then the flank players join in an arbitrary order. Does anybody know about something about team game maps being more bigger than intended? Bug? I haven't heard about that. They sometimes look quite big, I'm not gonna lie, but it didn't seem like a massive factor so far to me. So, yeah, there might be a bug like that, but I never really heard about that. And so far, it didn't really cause any major issues for us. So, even if there is something like that, we can probably just live with. Okay, Lix is 100% going to play. So, it comes down to Bat Koala or Vivi being the third member of White Wolf Palace. They're rotating players quite actively. So, Bruce French and English. Not gonna lie, I'm certainly hoping for some map variety in tournament because on open maps, this combination of civilizations just seems to be the powerhouse. So, Bruce, French, English. That is a brutal combination. Still, we haven't really seen some cheesy approaches or some unique ways to play the game. So there's a chance that some team is going to pop out a strategy that's just going to smack this Rus, French, and English approach in the face. But I do believe it's one of the strongest builds, simply because Rus by itself is very powerful. You have a ton of hunt to work with, so your bounty is going to be great. English is a very cavalry play. So it's hard to find a better trio of civilizations for an open map setup in Age of Empires 4 in 3v3s right now. With that being said, we are jumping into game number 3 over here. Looks like it is going to be Yolix and Bad Koala, so Vivi takes the bench once again. ACCM, Bacti, and Cool against them. They will have blue, green, and yellow versus red, teal, and purple. This is per usual. You gotta wait until everybody loads up, but hopefully we'll be able to jump into this game. Okay, there we go. I got scared for a brief moment, but finally it is time for game number 3. We will have look at the positions real quickly over here. It is going to be right versus left. The map is going to be high view. On the right side, we do have ACCM playing as the French in flank this time around. In the pocket, it is going to be cool as Yellow English. And to the north, it is going to be Bacti playing as the Rus in green. And on the other side, Bat Koala is going to be playing English flank in purple. Pocket is going to be Lix in teal. And to the north is going to be Yo with the French flank in red. Curious to see why they picked such positions, because this is a little weird to me. One of the things that to notice is that for each team, you have one player that's heavily isolated from the rest of the team. You see, down south over here, you have two players from White Wolf Palace rather close to each other, and ACCM is pretty far away from his teammates. Similarly, up north, Mr.Yo is going to have his own town center very far away from his teammates' ones, and he's the one isolated from his teammates. Looking at the Rus players right at the beginning, let's see how they're doing with the bounty gathering. So, Bhakti, currently at 10, not spectacular, but obviously, once he's got the hunting cabin up, we are expecting to see some scouts popping out. Pretty standard Rus stuff, you're going for a hunt. Now, if we've talked about the Rus being a powerful civilization on Arabia, when it comes to gathering the hunt, it's even better on High View. On High View, you have a ton of wolves to work with. The amount of deer is the same, it's 2 patches per player. That still adds up to be 12 patches, each having 7 deer, which means that if you do the math, it's 840 gold if I'm not mistaken. And then of course you have the sheep, then of course you have a ton of wolves, and this is the reason why Highview is just such a beloved map for Rus players. So many wolves give you a ton of gold to work with. You see, Bacti's already at 105 bounty, and we haven't even started killing the patches of deers. If you look at Lix is at 115 as well, so both of the players here are getting a decent amount of bounty right at the beginning. So looking at team positions, as I said, now I have a pocket for the English with a nice back gold mine. Now, when it comes to an English pocket, obviously, it's going to be a little more difficult to reinforce both of your flanks because your army is slower moving. On the other hand, you made the Rus or the English pocket work out very nicely in the previous game because this way he could just have a completely untouched play and just keep spamming out longbowmen. And the French might actually be a slightly better flank to absorb damage because obviously their power unit, the Knights, will be able to absorb a lot of damage. It's a little more difficult to push a French base in team games than it is to push an English base. 255 bounty already for Bhakti. Looking at the Lix, he's at 195, so a little bit behind, but not the end of the world. You see so many wolves out here, still completely untouched patches of huntables, and both players are getting close to tier 3 already. So on this map, it's almost guaranteed that you are going to get that tier 3 bounty for your Rus players, which helps a lot with the fast castle. We've discussed that in the game number 1, that if you get to like 380, 400 bounty, you can reduce the amount of transactions you need on the Golden Gate by 1. So that's your benchmark. In fact, if you get to like 530 or 540, you can even reduce it by 1 extra, and suddenly your bottleneck is gonna be food. So when you have this much bounty, like 500s in Dark Age, your biggest bottleneck is not gonna be gold. Your biggest bottleneck is gonna be food when it comes to the Rus Fast Castle. We have the Council Hall coming in for cool already, and for Bad Koala, Council Hall coming in as well for him. Mill on the way for ACCM, which is a sign that we're going to see professional scouts coming in from him. And on the other side, I would expect the very same thing from the French player. No, it's a wheelbarrow. That is a somewhat surprising choice here for Yo. It still doesn't mean that he is not gonna grab professional scouts. He very well has the chance to do that once he finishes with wheelbarrow, but it's a little unconventional to see wheelbarrow being used first and then going for professional scouts. It's possible that he doesn't really see the reason of going pro scouts right at the beginning because he doesn't have scouts anyways. He just wants to have that extra boost from the wheelbarrow, but it's a little surprising. And it looks like we're going to have Royal Knights come in first. Probably one knight that will be followed by scouts, and then you get pro scouts. Meanwhile, for Bad Koala, here come the longbows. He's rather close to the opponent's base, so ACCM could face that pressure pretty soon. He's going for the defensive tower on his gold mine. He knows exactly that's the number 1 priority when it comes to defending, especially because he's not going for knights, he's only going for a couple of scouts, so he won't really have an army to fight against those longbows with. Meanwhile, looking at the bounty, Bacti's up to 525, 325 only though for Lix. Not a spectacular amount of gold collected, and we see the reason why. He's not rushing that castle age. It looks like we might see some knights coming in from Lix. Interesting decision. And indeed, here come the knights. Not something that you see every day, and he's not mining gold, so I'm not sure how sustainable this is going to be, but he's trying to change things up here with the Rus. I'm not necessarily a fan of this. You see, at this point, if you look at Bhakti's resources, Bhakti is getting close to Castle Age already, and you're going to have a Horse Archer player against two players with melee knights, I assume, because you're going to have Royal Knights from the French, and you're going to have Knights from Lix as well, which means that you're going to have two melee knight players versus a Rus Horse Archer one, and I don't think that you can beat the Rus Horse Archers with just melee knights. In the middle, we do have the longbows hidden. On this map, you have a ton of stealth forests in the middle, so it's pretty difficult to find the opponent's army unless you have some scouts nearby, and you see ACCM using that scout very efficiently. He knows exactly where the longbows are creeping forward, whereas if you look at Bat Koala, he's got no idea about that scout tracking him. So ACCM is using the scout and the stealth forest mechanic very, very nicely over here. His opponent doesn't know that his forces have been discovered, and I really feel like ACCM could just make 2 or 3 knights and jump on this army. You see that Cool is sending his own forces to track this down, but 2 knights over here would help so much, absorbing the damage and just cleaning up those longbows. Longbows will exchange some shots in here as the knights swoop in for the kill. Seeing the knights, Bat Koala is going to call the retreats here, but there is just no support for his longbows whatsoever, so he's going to lose some numbers before the first knight comes in from Lix. This is a sign for the Vietnamese team that tells them that, okay, Lix is going for knights, so his castle age is going to be much slower than Bhakti's one. Wouldn't be surprised to see Bhakti already going up. Indeed, he hits castle age at 740. Beautiful timing with the Rus here, and we're going to see Horse Archers popping out. It looks like Yo was coming in with some knights. I don't think that he killed a ton of villagers, though. In fact, Yo's got 0 kills, so not a single villager lost its life here, and now we got some Horse Archers, so Bhakti should be able to win a 1v1 against Mr.Yo up north, and down south, I think that ACCM and Cool are in a better position compared to Bat Koala and Lix. Funny how every second game is a Rus, French, English mirror. I feel like the maps available will actually affect that. So, obviously, any open maps, this trio is extremely powerful. But if you actually had maps that are like Ancient Spires or Border Bay or So Pigged, that would spice things up a lot. So, for example, if you use up French over here, then you're not going to have it for Border Bay. So, part of the reason why we're seeing a lot of that, like a lot of French, Rus, English combination, is because the players are mostly playing open maps so far. But you could actually go for some mind games, try to pick some weaker civilizations here, and then win a game with French on Border Bay. So I can see that being a thing in the future. We'll have to see about that one. Anyways, we do have Pro Scouts still working nicely for Bhakti. Some Horse Archers are already out, but not a ton. So far, he's been focusing mostly on the relics. First one is just not being brought in. Down south, Lix and Bat Koala are hiding a force. Speaking of Lix, he's still making knights, not mining gold, so he's just going to use that Rus as a full melee cavalry civilization, which is a little surprising, I would say. Meanwhile, for ACCM, he's been just big chilling, going for Pro Scouts. He's also grabbing survival techniques, and he's gotten Wheelbarrow already, so he's gonna have a pretty well set up eco. Now, here come the first knights. I love how ACCM is accompanying those knights with a scout, which will give him vision into the stealth forest. So he has a much better chance to evade the enemy armies, or a much better chance to detect them if he wants to take a fight. That one scout from Bat Koala probably spotted this army though, and you see that the longbows are coming in to pursue. ACCM knows exactly that he's being pursued, and now Bat Koala is going to start looking for that army. So there's a lot of mind games over here on Highview when it comes to detecting armies, because whoever actually spots the opponent's army might actually be able to take an advantageous fight. So far, really small activity from all those Horse Archers from Bhakti. They aren't really pushing anything. In fact, if you look at Bhakti, he killed 0 units. So Bhakti hasn't been active with those Horse Archers just yet, as you do have relics already coming in here for him, though. So at this point, he's just prioritizing his economy, as it seems. looking at Lix, he is still very far away from Castle Age. So he's just going full feudal right now with the knights, but I'm not sure if that's the best use of the Rus. The biggest problem here for Lix is that he's pretty much giving up on all of those relics, as the knights do swoop in from ACCM. They do take down one villager. Knights coming back here for Lix, but ACCM will just disengage. Yo getting to Castle Age as the second player in the game. Looking at ACCM, he is not far away from clicking up, so he will be able to catch up without any significant issues. And you see, now we have free ranges for Bhakti, so I would expect the numbers of Cav archers to rise quite rapidly in the next few minutes. And I think what Bhakti needs to do is just play a 1v1 against an isolated Mr.Yo. Yo is just so exposed over here, and now you see horse archers are moving up, forcing a defensive tower from Mr.Yo. Also, forcing him to evacuate the berries and just forcing the pursuit of those knights. Yo's got knights everywhere, so he's doing an exceptional job just using small groups of knights for raiding. But now we got a significant force of horse archers moving in, so that's gonna be difficult to deal with for Mr.Yo. Lix using those knights to head straight towards the base of Cool. Cool is actually doing some walling over here. Not something that you see every day in team games, but with all those walls, he's gonna be able to limit the movement of those knights, and that could work out very nicely. On high view, you have a ton of small wood lines, so you can really go for these small walls that at least limit the opponent's chances to attack you, and you see that Lix has to take the longer way around. He will still be able to find a way into Cool's base though, and that's a chance to do damage. Meanwhile, horse archers from Bhakti scaring away the knights from Mr.Yo. There are small groups of horse archers at multiple positions on this map, so you gotta be careful not to have them jump on your eco. And here come the knights from Lix. This could be a nice raid for him because I see minimal forces in the base of Cool. He was not expecting this counterattack, and as I said, on this map using the stealth forest, the element of surprise is always on your side. But here comes Bhakti with a relic, and he could use that to maximum advantage. Looks like the conversion is going through, but it is going to be just way too slow. Conversions in general are just very slow, and that was another instance of that. Even if those 3 knights were in the influence radius, was just not enough time to get the conversion going. Most of the knights escaped anyways. This being said, that is a pretty sizable force of horse archers now coming in to clean up those knights, and these are still feudal age knights here from Lix, so they will be just destroyed very easily. Some knights coming in from Mr.Yo to try and raid Bhakti, but I feel like Bhakti is just so far ahead right now. We're talking about 4 relics for him already, so 300 plus gold income passively for him. He's got a pretty decent food economy still with quite a lot of deer ferried in, though he did lose some villagers on his wood line, so it's not ideal. He managed to clean up Lix's forces on the left side. Now we're talking about a fairly sizable force of knights for ACCM. And now, Bhakti can pay full attention to dealing with Mr.Yo. 46 army, more army than actual villagers here for Bhakti. But who needs villagers when you have 5 relics already? Some nice raids coming in here from Lix, getting a couple of villagers down. That tower was just a tiny bit too late from ACCM, but using his Castle Age Royal Knights, he should have no trouble dealing with this. Bhakti went up to 660 bounty. As a reference, Lix is still at 400, and that's a concerning thing for Lix. Being at 400 bounty already basically means that he doesn't even have the tier 3 food gathering rate boost unlocked. Obviously, it would have helped with his Castle Age timing as well, but the main difference here is that Bhakti not only does have the relics, he also have that extra food gather rate, and of course the trickle as well for the hunting cabin. Speaking of which, you can actually start dropping hunting cabins all around the stealth forests and get a very nice gold trickle like that as well. Couple of knights moving in here from Mr.Yo. Cool is just being harassed left and right, but he's got 2 town centers, so he can make up for that, and he's once again aging up with the King's Palace, so he's gonna have a 3rd one as well. He will be able to make up for those villager losses, as looks like Bhakti wasn't paying attention to his horse archers, so he runs into the forces of Mr.Yo. Yo is able to take down a sizable number of horse archers over here. Yo once again swooping in with the knights, and right now I really feel like this is Yo written all over it for White Wolf Pass, because he has been exceptional with his knights. He's been taking some good fights against the horse archers, and he's just been everywhere with the raids. He's been raiding our green player over here. He's been raiding Cool in the pocket. And you see, Bhakti is losing considerable numbers over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dead bodies over here. 34 villagers remaining only for Bhakti. As a reference, Lix is at 49. So Bhakti lost a ton of villagers out here. Lix actually has no warrior monk to capture that relic, but he's going to scare away ACCM for the time being. Bhakti, at least for him, he's got 5 relics working. Actually, it's now 6, so he will be able to compensate for those villager losses, but it's not ideal that he lost this many. Looks like for Cool, he's on 2 town centers. And if you look at the economies, Yo, with the best food economy, he's using a lot of villagers on Hunt, but that could backfire very, very easily. Horse archers could jump on them, but instead it looks like Vietnam might be going for a triple team on Bat Koala. Everybody is now up to Castle Age. Let's see if Lix switches to horse archers. And the answer is apparently no. Lix is gonna play full melee knights. Same thing, full melee knights for Yo. This could work against horse archers if you can get a good surround. But if you cannot, you just won't be able to keep track of them. One sacred site in the middle, in the hands of Bhakti, try to capture that, but it will be neutralized by the knights quickly, and Bhakti also loses the warrior monk. Towers being placed everywhere by Cole, and it's a very nice idea. It will expand his network of castles bonus, and it's also going to give him vision into the stealth forests. Looks like Yo is going to have his knights intercepted over here. He turns back to take this fight. French knights having the attack bonus after a successful charge also helps over here, and Bhakti is not really microing those forces, losing about 6-7 horse archers. This is the biggest problem when it comes to microing multiple groups of horse archers. You have to babysit them all the time. The moment you look away, you expose your horse archers to a ton of aggression. If you can micro all of your forces perfectly, then the horse archers will be able to beat the melee cavalry without problems. But when you have multiple groups of horse archers and you have multiple places to fight at, it's very difficult to keep track of every single horse archer you have. Knights once again coming in from Mr.Yo, intending to hit ACCM's base right now. ACCM doesn't have a ton back at home, so there's a good chance for these knights to do damage. You could split off a couple of them and send it to the base of Cool as well. In fact, they might all be going for Cool. Meanwhile, we do have a gigantic force of longbowmen from Bat Koala. That is 60 plus longbows, and with the range advantage that they have over the horse archers, they can just pick them off from a distance. Yo, swooping in with the cavalry, and he's coming in for that gold mine. 2 towers are there, and ACCM's reaction is swift, so he will be able to jump into those towers, but he will still lose a handful of villagers over here. Plus, of course, the idle time on the gold miners is not ideal for a player that wants to go for knights anyways. Looks like we do have Bat Koala with a battering ram even, somewhat curiously. Not exactly sure what the plan is with that. Knights now from ACCM returning back home to clean up the forces of Yo. I feel like at this point what Bhakti needs to do is just focus fully on Mr.Yo. Yo is going for a second town center in the middle to secure a gold mine and a forward position over here. And with all those horse archers, Bhakti could easily push Mr.Yo's base. He could do so much raiding damage, yet he didn't really go for that, and that just allows Mr.Yo to get a ton of knights out. I saw a relic being brought back as well by Lix. So Lix is gonna be up to 2 relics as opposed to Bhakti though. Bhakti having 7. Bhakti's having 745 gold per minute, and that comes exclusively from gold trickle. In fact, he's floating so much gold that he could start slinging some gold to his teammates. That is a scary push, if I've ever seen one though. 69, very nice, longbows, with 1 battering ram, and also some knight support from Mr.Yo. Speaking of Mr.Yo, his knight numbers are pretty decent. If you look at his military count, 28 knights, but it really feels like it's more, because he's just everywhere on the map. 5 over here, a handful over here in the middle, some down south, so really the map presence is exceptional here for Mr.Yo. Second town center up here for ACCM, that's gonna help a lot. Holding off this assault, some crossbowmen to support as well, to try and take down the knights. There is going to be a need for some longbow support here, otherwise the crossbows will just deal with the knights. Defensive keep coming in here for ACCM. He knows exactly there's trouble coming. A lot of palings deployed. Here come the longbows from Cool. He's going to have the network of castles bonus. His opponent does not, but once that tower goes up for Bat Koala, he's going to have that soon. Numbers are way better for Bat Koala here though, and that's something that you need to consider. Just feudal age knights here for Lix. On the other hand, we now have a keep up So it seems like this push might stall out. Yo is sending all his forces this way as well, being pursued by the horse archers of Bhakti. I feel like whoever wins this battle might actually have the game, because there's just so many forces clashing over here that you lose this battle, you will lose the majority of your army. At this point, the key micro is that you want to make sure that those horse archers can shoot the knights. The knights will absorb all the arrow fire. And now ACCM is the one with the Royal Institute. He adapted his play, something that we haven't talked about yet. Game number 1, he went for the Guild Hall. Now he's going for Royal Institute, so he's got 300 HP on those knights, just as well as Mr.Yo. So, learning from game number 1, ACCM now went with the Royal Bloodlines upgrade in Castle Age as well, and that is something that helps even the knight quality out, even though the numbers were in the favor of Mr.Yo a tiny bit. Looking at the left side, Yo is swooping in with some cavalry trying to do some raiding damage. Town centers and horse archers should be able to deal with this one without problems. Yo with 3 town centers booming though on the north, so ecos are being expanded at a quite rapid pace. Looking at the resource banks, 3,000 gold for Bhakti. He could buy Imperial Age, and that could be massive. Being able to get to Imp here with those horse archers, looks like longbows for cool will be able to hold this, but he won't be able to break out of his base because he doesn't have the numbers advantage over those purple longbows. I really am curious about the villager numbers, but at this point we just have no chance to take a look at it. Those longbows are right now outside the range of the influence or Cool, which means that Cool doesn't have the network of castles here whereas his opponent does, and that rate of fire advantage is actually pretty considerable now for Bad Koala, forcing Cool back into his base. Looking at the ACCM, he also expanded to a 3rd town center just like Mr.Yo. Yo's got the sacred site in the corner. In the middle, we do have some horse archers crawling up, trying to intercept reinforcements from Yo. And that's probably the most important thing that you can do here. Intercept Yo's reinforcements. Sacred Site coming in for Bhakti once again. He has managed to balance his eco, and I'm fairly certain he's going into Imperial, and indeed that's the case. High Armory on the way for him. 7 relics. Functioning for a long time. He started gathering relics at like minute 7, so his gold income for the entire game was just spectacular. Cool also in Imperial, not something that we haven't talked about. He has had a very nice farming eco setup. You see, there is dozens of farms with the English, and now he can get the enclosures upgrade immediately. So not only does Bhakti have a very good economy here, we also have that for Cool. And suddenly we could have 2 Imperial Age players with Imperial Age technologies. Is Bad Koala going into Imperial? The answer is no. If you look at the current resources, Yo is about to click up, I believe. Yep, Yo is on the way, and he's going up to the Red Palace. So he's going for that defensive landmark, a building that's going to be providing him a ton of firepower in the middle. Some knights from Yo once again trying to swoop in to raid. Yo keeps trying to get small numbers of knights into the back of the opponent's economy, and it's working quite nicely. It's distracting both Bhakti and both Cool. Cool going for the keep though, and he's gonna have some battering rams made up here. Elite Longbowman already in. Next thing that you could do with that keep is get a network of citadels bonus, so your rate of fire will increase even further. Here come the longbows, as network of citadels is still missing, but with that castle up you can actually start making siege weapons as well, so we could get some bombards out. Imperial Age is in for Bhakti, Yo, and Cool, so 2 Imperial Age players versus 1, but Mr. Yo is the one with the knights, and we know how powerful French knights are in Imperial Age. How close is ACCM to Imperial Age? ACCM is not going into Imperial, and as things stand, it looks like the Vietnamese team is about to break out. Elite Horse Archers, still missing the range upgrade. Elite Longbowmen though, and just keeps being spammed everywhere. Yo's got some forces at the back of Bhakti's base coming into raid, but at this point I feel like it's a momentum game. Quite a lot of longbows in here for Bad Koala, and he's got the network of castles bonus now working for him. Some spring golden placements also coming in on the tower, as longbows are now slowly marching up. But it's still gonna be difficult to push this base, especially with those knights not being elite yet, because ACCM is still in Castle Age. Looking at those resources, at this point it doesn't seem like either of the Chinese players that are still in Castle Age are going into Imperial, as the knights have been cleaned up. Yo is coming in with some reinforcements, and I'm fairly certain Elite Knight is almost in. Royal Bloodlines is an upgrade that he already has gotten in Castle Age, so that's not gonna be a thing for him anymore. But obviously Elite Knight will help a ton. Looks like the Knights will be able to take a decent fight, but that is before the Imperial Age upgrades come in, so those longbows with Elite can actually get some nice damage done on them. Now, Rams are pushing up, Horse Archers also on the way. You could actually justify switching into Rus Knights now in Imperial, because with the Boyar's Fortitude, they are also pretty powerful. Mangonel shot coming out here for Bad Koala. A second Mangonel shot could come in. This is not something that Cool was apparently prepared for, and he eats a massive amount of damage with those Longbowmen. Now it's Elite Royal Knights here for Mr.Yo. Some Knights from Lix as well, but they are lacking the Castle Age. Actually, they do have the Castle Age upgrade now, but still they are not spectacular when it comes to combat capabilities. Still, you gotta be very careful, because even just a single Mangonel can deal with a massive force of longbows. Those longbows will need to use the campfires to heal back up, because many of them have just been killed or heavily damaged in the battle. Behind this one, things are starting to get more and more intense. I would expect the healing to come in here with the campfire soon for Cool, but he's not doing that right now. And guess what? Bad Koala is breaking out. Still only 3 players in Imperial. What you really need here for Cool is his own Mangonel to get some nice shots in, just like the ones he suffered from, because now his forces are pretty heavily battered. Siege workshops are up, but I mean, even the keeps can produce Mangonels if you can afford them. That's the main question. Cool, looking at his resource bank, he doesn't have any gold mining going on right now. He's just going full longbows. Look at that flood of longbows across the map. This is just brutal. Unbelievable. Obviously, Cool is giving up on his gold miners because he's going mostly longbows, and he's got the enclosures upgrade on his farms, so he's got a very, very nice passive gold trickle. Cool is at like 500 gold per minute with 0 gold miners, which is exactly what you want with the English. Mr.Yo's got some nice assembled on north, might actually go for a raid. Down south, we do have some Knights from Lix swooping in, trying to get some damage done on ACCM's gold mining operation. Trade is not something I expect to see anytime soon. You just have so much mineable gold, so much passive gold income from multiple civilizations that trade is not going to be something that we see anytime soon. Cool actually does have some gold miners now, but they will all be slaughtered, so it's going to be a short-lived gold mining operation. Looks like the Horse Archers will be diverted to deal with Lix's Knights, and I'm not gonna lie, Lix's Knights did a lot more than what I expected to happen. I expected to see like 5-6 villagers being lost here, and it was more like 10-15 at this point. In the middle though, you already have flaming arrows for those elite longbows. They do have the volley upgrade as well, so those are fully upgraded longbows now. Knights still working on the eco of Cool though. And I feel like Cool is now starting to lose a ton of economy to just a handful of Knights running into raid, and that's just so frustrating. You might want to start walling up, because at this point Yo wants to raid you to death, and that's exactly what is happening. Another batch of Knights is coming in. And meanwhile, on the other side, Voes are coming up for Bad Koala, so he starts to realize that, okay, we need to slow this push down in the middle, and then just let Mr.Yo steamroll the economy of the opponent. The Berkshire Pass is back at home for Cool here. That's gonna help with the defense, but still, those Knights just have so much HP. After a successful charge, they also get the bonus damage, so they can just slaughter villagers here left and right. Cool is still at 200 population, doesn't need to stress this one just yet, but obviously, this is going to set him back quite a bit. This being said, I think that, considering that Yo is sending all his Knights to Cool's base, I think Bhakti should send Horse Archers to Yo's base, because Bhakti will have just a fiesta of slaughter, with Yo having no army back at home. Cool is losing a ton though, and with all these raids, he might actually start losing his Cool here. But like, his trickle of units is still pretty spectacular, and he's now making crossbows back at home, but he's losing a ton of villagers now. His entire farming eco is going to be evacuated, and you're going to need to send something to clean this up. And it has to be Bhakti, because ACCM is still Castle Age, so his Knights won't be enough, although now ACCM is an Imp, so things could get a little spicier. Bad Koala is the only Castle Age player right now. Here comes the Horse Archers. I lost track of them for some time with the flaming arrows though, and just as much as right now Yo is able to raid the eco of Cool, pushing him down to 79 villagers, those Horse Archers from our green player could also do quite a lot of damage to Lix, and they actually do. Yo coming in with Knights once again. Yo's numbers are just brutal. 54 elite Knights with all those upgrades, but ACCM is gonna have elite Knights soon as well. He's at 29 only, so the numbers aren't spectacular, but he's got the castles working with the discount for the stables nearby. Looks like the horse archers will be able to clean up Yo's force on the right. Yo pursuing those horse archers to the left. Markets being set up by Lix, so they are preparing for some sort of trade to come in. Yo still with gigantic knight numbers as we speak. Towers slowly crawling up here for Cool, but he's not getting the network of Citadels bonus, which is just a little weird. This bonus is massive, and you could just get even more firepower for your longbows. Bombard's already shelling the buildings of Bad Koala. Bad Koala is the only player in Castle Age still. He's got the resources for Imp though, so I would expect him to go up soon. And finally, something that we haven't seen for a long time, Bacti coming in to raid Mr.Yo. I feel like that's the best thing you can do. Yo is always the one that's the aggressor. He's the one sending the knights forward and trying to raid. So if you counterattack Mr.Yo, you can force Yo to defend and just relieve the pressure on your teammates from all those knights. And that's a fairly sizable force of knights once again for Mr.Yo. Yo is also pursuing those horse archers with his own forces. Trying to hide in the stealth forest is Bacti, but that's not going to work out that way. So he will need to continue running. Imperial Age in for Lix, and now we're seeing elite horse archers in for him as well. Longbows crawling up for Cool. Bad Koala still in Castle Age. Is he going up? Yes, he's going up with the Berkshire Palace. He's getting there, but he will still need some time to get his Imperial Age upgrades. Mr.Yo, huge force of knights coming in here. 68. Most of that army is knights. And I feel like Yo is waiting for a decisive engagement. He can charge in with all those knights. That could be game winning because he could just decimate that army. Although ACCM is up to 63 army now as well. And it is Bad Koala's base that's getting pushed quite actively. Some Manganos are out here to try and get some nice shots on those longbows. Here comes ACCM though. They just spotted that Bad Koala is up to Imperial. And they don't want to wait any longer. That's a very clever move. They know exactly that if Bad Koala gets his Imperial Age upgrades, they won't have a chance to take a good fight over here. Knights coming in from Mr.Yo, and this is the fight for the game. What ACCM needs to do is just trade off knights here, because at this point, Bad Koala's just got a Castle Age army. Horse archers coming in, the numbers are rather even. And just look at this absolute massacre here. ACCM also has an easier time reinforcing his bases closer. Same thing for Bacti. And the biggest thing I do believe is the lack of Imperial Age upgrades for Bad Koala, because that is what can swing this battle in the favor of the Vietnamese team. The knights are disappearing from Mr.Yo, and now those longbows will start opening up on those horse archers. And I feel like with this, the Vietnam Legends might be able to take this game. That Berkshire Palace is about to crumble to the cannon fire, and the lack of Imperial Age upgrades, as I said, is just a big problem here for Bad Koala. The thing is that the timing here on this push was perfect from Vietnam Legends. They knew exactly that they need to push this before Bad Koala gets his imp upgrades, and they did just that. Now they're pushing forward. ACCM's forces are also getting heavily decimated, but so are the forces of Lix, and so are the forces of Bad Koala. And you see the bombards are already crawling up. They will probably focus the landmarks. You got the Trunk TC here, you got the Council Hall here, Berkshire Palace here, and the White Tower here, so you could just focus down all those landmarks and just say, okay, I'm done with this game, I'm going to defeat Bad Koala here. There goes the Council Hall, the Starting Town Center, and the Berkshire Pass is about to go down as well. I feel like Yo's got 20 seconds to save his teammates. Look at this. Starting TC is about to go down, White Tower, Berkshire Palace. Bad Koala is about to get defeated here. Yo is assembling a force of knights, but I'm not sure if he's understanding how close defeat is Bad Koala, and I don't see this one being won 2 versus 1 by Bad Koala's team here. Bombards are crawling up. They're setting up to take down the town center. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and Bad Koala is out. And with that, it's now a 2 versus 3 matchup. Not something that White Wolf Palace has a chance to win, to be honest. Even though, obviously, Bad Koala's army was already battered, but now they're missing the archer component from their army, pretty much. So, crossbows here for Cool will be able to take some good fights against the forces of Yo. And you see Lix also resigned. Vietnam Legends, after losing game number 1, they take 2 in a row, and they move to match point. Oh boy, oh boy. What a game. I have to say that the more team games we're watching, the more spectacular they become. And that is just so, so fun. And to take a look at this. When it comes to villager numbers, obviously that might not be completely relevant because Bhakti was playing with 7 relics for the majority of the game. Only 2 relics for Licks, and I cannot help but wonder why Licks decided to go for the Knight's play with the Rus. I just don't see that being that legitimate here. He also had a way lower bounty compared to his opponent, so his castle would have been slower anyways. But especially with a low bounty, no tier 3 on that, and then going for Feudal Knights that really never materialized, and you see, Bhakti was only at 99 villagers compared to 116 from Licks, but he probably had way better resource income. I don't think Bhakti was mining any gold at all throughout the game, and he had like 20 grand, which is the second, actually third best in the game. But yeah, just a ton of gold with minimal effort to actually mine it. 32,000 gold from Mr.Yo though. Yo's economy was just out of this universe. 45,000 food, 32,000 gold. Yo was playing exceptionally well. Like, his night numbers were crazy. The problem was that I think that between the Rus players, Bhakti was decisively ahead compared to Licks. ACCM was a tiny bit behind compared to Yo, but not by that much. And Cool was quite a bit ahead compared to Bad Koala. So you had 2 players on the Vietnamese team that were definitely quite a bit ahead compared to their respective counterpart on the opposing team. Whereas for the third player, Mr.Yo was a tiny bit ahead compared to ACCM, but not by a decisive margin. That's probably the most important thing over here. Vietnam Legends move to match point over here, but we're not done just yet. We will have at least one more game if White Wolf Palace is able to even it out, then 2 more games. So, what are the remaining maps? Ancient Spires, Boulder Bay, Hillandale, and Lipony. I wonder if we're going to see something like Boulder Bay now, although, once again, this is the Chinese team losing. So, with White Wolf Palace losing this game, they have to pick their own home map, and so far they played open maps. Ancient Spires is a map that the Vietnamese team loves to play on, so I wouldn't be surprised to see something like Lipany. And once again, going back to the civilization selection rules, now the concept is pretty simple. So, with that, Rus, French, and English are unavailable for both players. But they can repick the civilizations that they used in game number 2. So Chinese are once again available for the Vietnamese team. It was available for the Chinese team, White Wolf Palace, for this game as well. Holy Roman Empire available again for White Wolf Palace. So is Delhi. But unless it's Boulder Bay, I don't really see Delhi being utilized. So that's what I'm thinking about right now. Okay, I haven't received information on the civilization selections yet, but the players are joining the lobby, so we are going to have the game up pretty soon, and we'll soon see the civilizations as well. I guess it depends obviously on the map, so they're first picking a map, and that is on the side of White Wolf Palace. So they have to pick their home map first, and then the teams will decide what civilizations they do want to play. As I said, Boulder Bay, Ancient Spires, Glendale, and Lipany are the remaining options for White Wolf Palace to choose from. So far, they went for the open maps, so wouldn't be surprised to see Lipany being a thing. Hillandale, maybe, but I don't think that this is something that they want to play a lot. They are a fairly aggressive team. They don't want to play these slower paced maps like Hillandale. Boulder Bay, I can see that being a thing, especially with French and Rus gone from both sides. So you would have something like Chinese, Holy Roman Empire, and then maybe Delhi as your free civilizations, but no French or Rus on the water if we go to Boulder Bay. That's something that we need to consider. If we go to Ancient Spires, you can have Mongols available for both. So that's something to consider as well. they might have not wanted to play Ancient Spires in game number 3 because then neither of the teams would have had Mongols, and Mongols is just such a powerful civilization. Ancient Spires. Viper not on this tournament. We don't have their sign up yet, but I've been confirmed that Gamer Legion is gonna have at least one team in the event. We don't know the composition yet, and they haven't signed up yet. But I did receive confirmation that Gamer Legion is gonna have a team, and considering that Viper is by far the most active player in entire Gamer Legion on Age of Empires 4, I would expect him to be on that team. That's for sure. Because like Jordan and Slam didn't play that much. I think Viper, Taro are pretty much locks, and then Doubt. Doubt also played quite a lot of AoE4. So I would expect at least one Gamer Legion team out there. Not sure if we're going to have two. You can sign up with a maximum of 5 players, and they do have 6 on their roster. So they either sign up with one team with multiple players and then just have someone not playing that's not necessarily that much into AoE4, or they could sign up with 2 teams, but then each and every player has to play a lot. Vivi is going to play. Okay, so Vivi is stepping in for game number 4. So far, when Vivi played, he played game number 1. They won, and with Bad Koala, they are 0-2. So we might see Bad Koala getting benched over here and having Vivi step in. So no confirmed civilization, but Yo is typing. So you are gonna have the civilizations revealed in a matter of moments. I'm really curious how this tournament is gonna go. I'm not gonna lie, because so far the team games that we have seen were spectacular. Imagine matchups like, I don't know, the Muslim Recon and Beastie, which is one team, versus let's say Vortex, Mista, and Lucifron. So there's gonna be a ton of fun team games out there. And Mongols, Chinese, and Abbasids are the civilizations for Mr.Yo's team. This could be Border Bay, or this could be. I think if you go Border Bay, you would still go Delhi. But Mongols, Chinese, Abbasids, to me, it sounds like an Ancient Spires lineup. We haven't gotten the civilizations yet from ACCM's team, but we should have that in a matter of moments. Yeah, there it is. Holy Roman Empire, Chinese, and Mongols. So the only difference now is that we have Abbasids as compared to Holy Roman Empire. Okay, so how does this matchup go? It's probably going to be Ancient Spires because that's where I can imagine Delhi not being used. I feel like Delhi is still a pretty powerful civilization on Boulder Bay in 3v3 team games if you have no access to French and the Rus. Holy Roman Empire is pretty frequently picked, and I think it's a great pick there. Chinese is usually a popular pick because it's a great late game civilization, and you have to find something for your third. If you don't have Rus or French available, then it's probably going to be your Abbasids pick. So, players are getting ready. Vivi is already in the lobby, ACCM as well, so we're likely going to see Vivi step back into combat. I'm curious to see how this game is going to go, because it is match point. As I said, I haven't received information on the map, so I'm not exactly sure which map they're playing, but given the fact that we have Holy Roman Empire, Chinese, and Mongols, and on the other side you have Mongols, Chinese, and Abbasids, I would suspect Ancient Spires or Boulder Bay. Ancient Spires is a home map that Vietnam Legends used against Hera, Kaposh, and Marine Lord, though, and they actually played pretty well on there. So I feel like Ancient Spires is a risky pick here for White Wolf Palace, but we'll have to see about that one. Looks like Lix is not in lobby though, so there's a chance that Lix is the one getting benched. Bad Koala is going to play. All right, while we're waiting, I'm actually going to take a half a minute of a break, grab something to drink for myself because this stream has been going on for like 3 hours or so, and they haven't launched up the game just yet. So I'll be back in a matter of moments. Once again, for YouTube, I will put timestamps down below in the comments so you don't have to wait through all these breaks. I do want to upload this as a full set instead of separate games, so I will just put timestamps to places where the games start. Oh yeah, it's a best of 5. It's not written anywhere. You guys are right. Um, you guys are right. I'm sorry for that. I actually thought we had it on the overlay, but that's not the case. It is the best of 5. I'm sorry for that. So it is match point right now for Vietnam Legends. All right. My timing to come back was perfect because it looks like the game is up. So we're jumping straight into game number 4 over here. Match point for Vietnam Legends. They were very, very motivated to practice and prepare because they do want to be successful in general. As I said at the beginning of this cast, both the Chinese and Vietnamese community have a lot of legacy in team games. These are communities that love to play team games. They actually prioritize team games over 1v1s. So for them, every single team game they play, they're extremely motivated to jump in there as we jump into game number 4. And it looks like it is Hill and Dale. Now, I'm surprised about this one. It's not necessarily an unconventional civilization lineup for this one, but I was expecting some sort of hybrid map over here, simply because you got the Holy Roman Empire, you got the Abbasids, you got the Mongols out here, especially the Mongols is what is an interesting pick over here. Not something that's uncharacteristic on team games for Hillandale, but I was expecting a map like Ancient Spires where Mongols just burn down docks and that's why you pick them. So let's rethink our entire discussion of civilizations because I wasn't expecting this map at all. Up north, we're going to have the Vietnamese team with Bacti playing as the Holy Roman Empire flank. In the pocket is going to be cool playing as the Chinese, and we will have Mongols flank for ACCM in blue. Immediately coming up with the wars on the left side is Mr.Yo, who is playing yellow Abbasid flank. In the pocket is going to be Bad Koala playing as the green with the Mongols, and on the right flank, we're going to have a Chinese pick for the Fat Dragon. So, two main differences. First of all, for the Vietnamese team, you got the Chinese player in the safest position in between the two teammates, whereas for our Chinese team over here, VV, White Wolf Palace, he's going to have the Chinese on the flank, and the pocket is going to be the Mongols player. Mongols player that's quite a bit at the back over here, but it's a very nice town center spot, close to the deer and close to the trees. The other difference is that you do have Abbasids for Mr.Yo as opposed to Holy Roman Empire. Now, Abbasids can have a very, very nice boom. They can have a decent castle age push as well, but I don't see that being as legitimate as just having a fast Imperial with the Holy Roman Empire. So I really feel like I like the civilization lineup of Vietnam Legends a tiny bit over here. ACCM came forward with that con, trying to get those wars denied, but that's not going to be a possibility, and I feel like ACCM needs to run away while he can. Because if he gets his con trapped in here, that's gonna be annoying. Lagging? I don't... It shouldn't lag. It's likely on your side then. Because on my side, everything is alright. We're not dropping frames. We dropped 39 frames, but in a 3-hour stream, that's minimum. So we shouldn't have any major lag over here. Okay, so looking at the Vivi, he's dropping that mill on the hunt. That's probably the most effective way that you can use your Imperial officer in this map. Your hunt is very close to your town center, so you can drop your mill right over there at the beginning, and you can just supervise that. That's by far your best food income out here. Wall already coming up for Mr.Yo. He's going to make sure that this is all walled off. It's a little awkward looking wall over here. I'm not exactly sure what was the concept with that. He's also walling off the middle, getting a gate up. On the right side, Vivi is the one responsible for the walling, and it looks like we're going to have full walls for White Wolf Palace. Whereas for the Vietnamese team, we're not seeing any kind of walls happening. Alkin Chapel on the way for Bacti. And we also have a mill for Cool that's being supervised on the hunt. So you see 360 food per minute for him. And for Vivi, it's only 216, which is a little underwhelming. But it's probably because he only has 6 villagers on food out here at the end of the world. Bad Call actually has a second scout out here. So he's going to try and pursue the con of ACCM. I wonder if that's just a second scout added from the TC or he has a stable. And the answer is that we have a stable. I think here for Bad Caller you can justify a stable because you just want to ferry in deer from this lower area. You have a ton of hunt over here that you can take and you want to take that. Same thing for the Holy Roman Empire player. You want to ferry in some deer. You might even do that for the Chinese, but especially for the Mongols and the HRE players, ferrying in deer is definitely something that you can consider here. Meanwhile, up north, we do have some horsemen as well for Bad Koala, and it looks like Bhakti wasn't prepared for that aggression. I kind of dislike how Bhakti's team didn't really do that much of a walling, and now they're going to pay the price. I haven't even spotted these units. They were a little slower walling, and now those Dark Age horsemen do come in. This is not something that you see every day on Hillandale, and that's probably why it caught Bhakti's team off guard. Because if you think about it, Mongols is not really a popular civilization pick on Hillandale in 1v1s. So you sort of have that feeling that you have your time to wall. But with Mongols, it's completely different because they do have their horsemen that can get to your base really fast. So get some Dark Age horsemen and you can get some damage done. A villager went down from Bhakti already. And now you see, Bad Koala actually has a villager coming in the middle. Holy potatoes. Holy potatoes, there's a lot of things happening over here. It's a little difficult to spot it on the minimap because the dots are very small and you have a lot of mass. All those forests and berries and stuff like that showing up over there. But it looks like Bad Koala tried to push up with some towers over here. He's still in Dark Age. I assume the plan was that he makes the towers and then he's going to use that in Feudal Age, get the YAM speed network in as well, and he just wants to keep these walls open. ACCM has to respond with his own horsemen to try and fight this off, but obviously, at this point, their walls are open, and that's the most important thing, I believe, for Bad Koala. His game plan was to just go full on the scouts and horsemen department, and instead of ferrying in deer, he doesn't care about that. He just wants to go and burn down buildings, and on a map where the players are set up to just boom and make very limited army, being able to swoop in and just harass the opponent like this is an exceptionally useful thing. Now, you got some scouts coming in here for Bhakti, you could make some horsemen as well, but the key thing is that Bhakti's team wasn't planning to make army. Bhakti's team was planning to boom. You see, this was a professional scouts build from Bhakti. His teammate, Cool, actually went for probably a Song Dynasty approach, so they weren't planning to get this much army on the battlefield that they need to clean this one up. So you see ACCM has to react to this one, but the fact that he's reacting is already a bad sign, because this way Bad Koala is one step ahead, and these walls are still open. Ton of scouts here as well for Bad Koala. Obviously, as ACCM is going to lose his con to the town center of Bad Koala, part of the reason why Bad Koala is making this many scouts is because they are very, very cheap and he can just flood them in Dark Age. ACM is up to Feudal Age, so he can get the Horseman upgrade though, and that's gonna help a lot. But still, at this point, I really feel like Bad Koala is just doing an exceptionally good job harassing the opponents. And behind this one, remember that Yo is Abbasids. So, as long as these walls are open, Yo has the chance to just go for that semi-fast castle approach, go for men-at-arms and some rams, or some spearmen and rams, lancers, potentially. So, there's a lot of options here for White Wolf Palace as long as these walls are open. 13 scouts, they won't be particularly powerful when it comes to killing units, but they will be decent when it comes to burning down buildings. An archer range up for Cool, as he already has the 2 landmarks, so he's in Song Dynasty, and he is on stone, so he's going to have a second town center soon. Horsemen and scouts will try to swoop in once again, hit the gold mine of Bacti. Speaking of Bacti, he is getting close to Castle Age with that Holy Roman Empire build of his, but obviously being forced away from gold hurts, and you see that Bad Koala will be able to set that mining camp on fire, giving him 50 gold and 50 food. And of course, the most important thing is that he's slowing down Bacti. At this point, Bad Koala is doing something that usually Lix is responsible for in White Wolf Palace, disrupting the play of 2 or 3 opponents and just giving time for Vivi and Yo to snowball the game. That's exactly the plan. Bad Koala is still in Dark Age, but he doesn't really worry about that. You see, he's coming in with a barracks as well, and he's now jumping in and out of that tower with scouts. That's actually pretty clever, because the scouts don't do that well against horsemen, but when you garrison them into towers, they will give you arrows. So they are actually more useful garrisoned into a tower compared to just having them on the battlefield. And you see there's a forward barracks coming in. If I didn't know this was Bad Koala playing this, I would say this is Lix. Because this is exactly the disruptive playstyle that we are so used to seeing from him. And you see, he's forcing ACCM to make so many scouts, he's setting his opponent back, Bacti, when it comes to Castle Age timing, and the most important thing is that he's got map presence. How is Bacti going to grab relics for the Holy Roman Empire when there is so many horsemen, so many scouts roaming the battlefield? You see now, Bacti actually looped around with the villager trying to get some wars up here. With that tower up, Bacti can't send the villager from this direction, so he's sending it from the other one, trying to wall these forces in, somehow prevent the flow of reinforcement, but that just seems impossible, and this hero villager is still there. It's still living, and it just gives the window open for Bad Koala to try and get that barracks up. Once again, the scouts are garrisoned into the tower for the additional firepower, and since Bad Koala sees that he can't really take this fight against now Feudal Age horsemen, he will run away. He's up to Feudal as well though, and he went up with the Silver Tree somewhat surprisingly, so no Deer Stones for him. He might actually make a couple of trade cards at this pace. Even if it's not very long distance trading, that could give a decent eco for him. Barracks is up, so now Spearman can come in. As I said, Bad Koala is just the person responsible for disrupting everybody. Harass the Chinese player, harass the Mongols and HRE player, and give a window for Yo and Vivi to just boom. Another villager goes down here for Bacti. He's desperately trying to get those walls up, but that's just not an option. Minimal casualties taken by Cool though, and it's something that we need to keep in mind, that while he was successful harassing the HRE player for some time, he didn't really do that much against the Chinese player, and we still have Castle Age on the way for Bacti. And once he gets to Castle Age, he can make Knights, and the Knights will be able to clean up everything over here. These are just Dark Age Spearmen, so they won't perform that well. So, with this help of the Jugenu and the Knights, this should be a cleanup. Still, Hu wasn't planning to go for that many Jugenu at the beginning, so there is definitely something of a value out of this attack by Bad Koala. One thing that he needs to keep in mind though is that the moment he loses this fourth position, ACCM can burn those buildings down and he's going to get the Mongols bounty on them. So ACCM will actually be able to get a return value for this cleanup. Once we have these fights settling down, we will be taking a look at the villager counts. Looks like we have some relics already being brought in by Bacti. He needs 3 to make sure that the Dragonese Cathedral works well, but if he's very much into relic gathering, he can get more. He needs a monastery for that, but that's it. And you see, Pool is like, okay, I do not wish to get harassed anymore, so I'm gonna go for the stone walls. Looks like the barracks is trying to get away, but it's gonna be lit on fire by the horsemen of ACCM, and now ACCM has a fairly sizable force of horsemen. But, look at Vivi. 3 town centers and Song Dynasty. Mr.Yo, 1, 2 town centers, 3 town centers as well with the Abbasid fresh foodstuffs. That was the concept here. That, yes, you didn't manage to harass Cool that much, but you definitely set back the Castle Age timing of Bacti. If you set back his Castle Age timing, you delay his Imperial Age. Speaking of Imperial Age, Palace of Swabia is coming in, so it wasn't delayed that much, and Cool wasn't delayed either. The concept of this strategy was that Bad Koala delays all 3 players, sets back the HRE player with the Castle Age timing, and that also delays Imperial Age and the Palace of Swabia, sets back the Chinese players so there is no free TC Song Dynasty boom, And behind this one, Vivi just goes for a free TC boom himself, so does Mr.Yo. Yo is up to Castle Age though. Vivi is on the way right now. We have a fairly sizable force of horsemen coming in here from ACCM, but that won't really be able to break in here. Yep, there is no way to break in, there is stone walls out there. But this map control will give a chance for Bhakti to pick up a ton of relics. You see, he already has one, and he's probably bringing in some more. Let's do a villager tally real quickly. 43 only for ACCM, he's playing 1 TC, Badcore is at 45, so the two Mongol players are rather even. 96 for Vivi, 38 for Bhakti, 70 for Cool, 70 for Yo. So, long story short, the villager count for Bhakti is very much unimpressive, but obviously he's got the Palace of Swabia, so he's just now starting to boom. For the Chinese players, there is definitely an eco advantage for Vivi over his opponent, so that's something worth considering. But obviously, now you're gonna have an HRE player with Imperial Age, relics on the Ragnitz Cathedral, and the Palace of Swabia. So I actually feel like this is a better position to be in for the Vietnam Legends, especially because one of the town centers for Vivi or for Yo is actually exposed. So battering rams could come in any time, and that's exactly what we're seeing from those Zhugenu. At this point, still some deer ferrying from Bhakti, so his food income is also spectacular thanks to the Aachen Chapel. This is looking pretty good for the Vietnamese team, I would say. Still, obviously, Vivi has a very, very good economy. If you look at his resources, he's getting close to Yuan Dynasty if he isn't in it already. So Fire Lancers could start to hit the field soon, but now Yo's economy here is gonna get pushed. Only 10 villagers can be garrisoned inside a town center, so it's very likely that this TC is history, and with that, 10 villagers from Mr.Yo will also go down. Meanwhile, the prelates are still being sent forward to gather the relics, and as I said, there is minimal forces here for Mr.Yo to fight this one. Yo is currently sitting at 79 villagers, but that will soon go lower and lower. That's gonna be 10 villagers going down here, and also access to that gold mine will be denied. This gold mine being lost is not the end of the world for Yo, but losing 10 villagers will definitely set him back a tiny bit, and I really feel like with Yo losing that many vills, plus the Holy Roman Empire player already being in Imperial Age and booming on the Pass of Swabia, this is looking really good now for Bhakti's team. You see, it is going to be 3 relics as we speak. Yo is at 73 villagers. And on the other side, Bhakti is already up to 69. Very nice. So, Bhakti pretty much caught up with the villager count. Vivi, however, is the first Chinese player to reach Imperial Age. And let's see, he's going Spirit Way, and probably stables right next to it. We're seeing Fire Lancers being prepared here by the Fat Dragon, and I would expect Mongols to go for a Spearman spam here. Because Spearmen that can brace actually work out nicely against Fire Lancers, and Yo is going Camel Archers. Now, don't underestimate Camel Archers. They are extremely powerful and pretty difficult to counter when in large masses and supported by other units. So, Camel Archers will be able to take down the majority of the forces that Bhakti's team can make. These guys have a pretty decent base attack, so they perform at an acceptable level versus heavy infantry or even heavy cavalry, but obviously at this point, they'll be used as a unit against the Spearman. Fire Lancer plus Camel Archer might be difficult to counter, so... By the way, this wolf is standing right next to Relic. Do you know what that means? This means that this monk that was carrying the Relic was killed. Sacred Site under control now of Bhakti. We got one scout from Mr.Yo harassing that prelate that's bringing back the relics. He should still be able to get back. Speaking of which, we already have 3 relics in the Ragnitz Cathedral, but Bhakti once again is bringing back the relics, and there's still a ton of relics to be found. One over here, there's one coming in here. So Bhakti could once again be at like 6 or 7 relics, and it looks like the knights are able to break in. Where did these come from? I think there was a hole here, because these walls feel very much new. So, a couple of knights managed to break in here. Let's see how the Camel Archers do against them. These are still Castle Age Camel Archers against Elite Knights, but you see, they're able to take them down at an acceptable pace. On the right side, we got the relics being guarded by the Zhugenu, as we got some knights trying to break through the walls. Minimal aggression right now for Bhakti's team, but honestly, I think they have to be satisfied with the fact that they have map control. Because as long as they have map control, they can grab like 10 relics. And, I mean, at this point, it's already 3 relics in the Ragnitz Cathedral, so that's 900 gold per minute. Recall for Bhakti. And plus, of course, he can grab some more relics over here. I think he's bringing in some more. Couple of scouts coming in, somewhat surprisingly, from Bhakti. As we do have Camel Archer numbers increasing steadily. 2 players are in Imperial Age, Bhakti and Vivi. And Vivi has been in Imp for a long time. There is the Imperial Palace, so he's got Yuan Dynasty, and you know what that means. That means Fire Lancers. So the most important thing right now, I think, for both teams, knowing that Fire Lancers are an option, is Stone Walls. You don't want just a single layer of Palisades because Fire Lancers eat Palisades in seconds, and look at the type of war Yo is doing. He's realizing that they will need some lowlands control over here soon, and he's going to start sending out villagers to wall off this side. In fact, still with just 3 relics in the Rangnick's Cathedral, I'm not sure where those prelates went that were carrying relics, because he had a ton of relics coming in, but you just don't see a lot of that, and that's gonna hurt, because he could have way more gold income. But we have 2 sacred sites under his control, and he could technically secure the 3rd one. There's the villager coming in for the wars. But yeah, that's what Bhakti's going for. He's going to trigger the Sacred Site victory. I think that Vivi is going to have enough forces here to neutralize it, so it's not the end of the world for White Wolf Palace. But also, those Sacred Sites give you a gold trickle, so that's a nice little extra. Vivi dispatching Fire Lancers all across the map, trying to isolate small groups of units like these Zhugenu. And Vivi is actually going to get a nice fight over here, pinning those up. And now he's just hunting for stray prelates or anything that he can take down with a small group of Fire Lancers. Looks like he's coming in. He knows exactly that you could just try to run in and do a ton of damage with the Fire Lancers, but that's gonna be impossible through these wars. Sacred Site's now under the control of the Vietnamese team, so technically Sacred Site victory could be triggered at like 29 minutes or so, but I would be very surprised if that was actually the case. Also, Sacred Site's already being neutralized. Same thing over here, so that's gonna be a short-lived effort over here. We got some spearmen coming in from back, the minimal upgrades on them, but he's got some men-at-arms as well, and they do have all the upgrades, so that's something to pay attention to. How is the Fire Lancer progress doing for Cool? He's got granaries, something that we haven't really seen being used by other Chinese players. I want to talk about that once we have a bit of a time, but we don't have time because that's a gigantic force of Fire Lancers from Vivi already marching up, mounting like 50 or so. Yeah, it's 42. Very nice number of Fire Lancers here. And they can clean up these production buildings really fast. So all the effort from Bhakti to get those production buildings back up over there might actually just be in vain. Some spearmen and some men-at-arms are out. And this is where you have to highlight something very important. There's a bug in the game that prevents the Holy Roman Empire men-at-arms from bracing, which means that the Fire Lancers will be guaranteed to get their charge in on Holy Roman Empire men-at-arms. So there's absolutely no point using HRE men-at-arms here for Bhakti. You just need the Mongol or the Mongol spearmen here. HRE men-at-arms or HRE spearmen will just die to the Fire Lancer charge. So for Holy Roman Empire, and this is something that I want to channel back to what we discussed before, slinging. I think this is one of those situations where the Holy Roman Empire player has a crazy economy. I think if you're Bhakti, you want to boom up to like 180 population, have those relics, and just keep sending resources to Cool. And Cool should just delete pretty much all his villagers and just basically live off the resources that's sent to him by his teammate. Because the HRE player will have a great economy, and this way you could get better Fire Lancer numbers, because at this point the army of Bhakti won't really be able to contribute much to these. As things stand, Fire Lancers are in for both players. Wars are up for Mr.Yo on the left side, and he's already setting up trade, so White Wolf Palace is getting ready for a long game over here. Looking at the military numbers, it's 70 for Vivi, and for Cool it is 64, so comparable Fire Lancer numbers right now. Both sides tempted to try and launch an attack on the opponent's base. The Fire Lancers, Yo, up in Imperial, but he doesn't have the elite Camel Archer just yet. The only player that's still in Castle Age is ACCM. There is so many things going on at the same time, so that we didn't really have the time to look at what ACCM was doing, but I'm somewhat surprised that he's still in Castle. That is, I believe, the Pagoda? The relics. Oh, we gotta have so many things to talk about over here. I wish there was just 5 minutes of truce here, because there is so many nice things that Cool is doing with the Chinese. I'm just now realizing. We'll talk about that in a moment, as it looks like Cool is no longer going to pursue a charge over here. So, first things first, granaries. a building that is going to have more food, or a Gatorade boost for your nearby farms. Not something that you see a lot of Chinese players use. You see most Chinese players just use the mills, but Pool is actually using granaries, which is the unique building available in the Yuan dynasty. So that's one of the things that he is doing very nicely. And the other thing that he's doing is that he's up to Ming dynasty now. So his cavalry is going to have a tiny bit more HP. You see it's 208 versus 192. And the other most important thing there is that he's going to have the pagoda. So he can actually leverage the fact that his teammate has a ton of relics. If I can find that building. I'm just scared to switch away from the battle because there's so many things going on at the same time. But the way that Cool is playing the Chinese is very, very intriguing. And there's a lot to learn about the Chinese. Looks like the Fire Lancers are moving to the right side over here. Walls are still set up on all directions. So it's not going to work out well to break in here. But Cool could find a ton of villagers from the Fat Dragon. I see 24 villagers in here, 22 more, and these are just sitting ducks right now to those Fire Lancers. If Cool finds them, they will just be able to break through. But speaking of breaking through, there's the Fat Dragon, and while the Fire Lancers can't get through stone walls, the Bombards can. And it looks like Vivi managed to sneak up a siege workshop here, bring in a couple of Bombards, and ACCM just reached Imperial Age. He barely has any army. He can run away with his landmarks, and he should. He should pack up his town center and run for the furthest away corner right now, because those Fire Lancers are coming in. There goes the Step Redoubt. There goes the Deer Stones, and suddenly ACCM is in serious trouble. There is a couple of Lancers coming in. Does he have enough time to mass those Lancers to hold this off? Here come the Fire Lancer mass from Cool, so ACCM just needs to buy a tiny bit of time for himself. And it looks like those Lancers might be able to get him the time he needs. Behind this one, though, Yo is crawling up on the left side. We'll have a look at his eco soon, but obviously there's just so many things happening at the same time. Now that the charge has been depleted for the Fire Lancers and those Lancers have all upgrades, they're actually able to take these down, but Fire Lancers just don't care. Fire Lancers are just like, okay, I'm gonna go for your landmarks. ACCM is repairing the Step Redoubt immediately. He knows exactly that he can't afford to lose those landmarks because that's game over for him. Fire Lancer is now charging in here, but this is not the landmark town center. This is a standard second town center. There is the Great Wall Gatehouse even here for the red player. Cool. Fire Lancer just trying to do some more damage here to the pocket. At this point, though, the reinforcements have been caught. Revos are going to commerce, so it looks like the damage was avoided. Cool, secure in the middle over here. Now, if you look at Yo's gold income, that's just not there, but I don't think it's because he can't have access to gold. I think it is because he just wants to go full Camel Archer. And Camel Archers do not cost gold. So I think Yo could mine gold if he wanted to. ACCM is not on a ton of gold, though, because they're running out of gold on top of the hill. Looks like the wars will be completed. So now you need a gate on this to let the knights out. Fire Lancers could still burn down the markets, and that could set back the opponent's trade a tiny bit. Meanwhile, quite a lot of army over here for Bhakti, and Landsknechte is an interesting unit to add over here. Because those guys do have area damage, so they do particularly well against mass infantry unless there is mangonels in here. Look at the Landsknechte just slaughtering all that infantry with the area damage, but obviously the mangonels do help a lot. Yo is sending for the villagers over here to try and wall this off, but those villagers are just running into their death. Some of them will survive though. Yo with Elite Camel Archer now nearby. It looks like Bat Koala, being an Imperial, he's gonna go for that infantry flood of the Mongols. That's exactly what you want to go for. You want to make sure that you have something that can brace against those Fire Lancers. And we are once again in for a pretty long game over here, as both sides are setting up some stone walls. They have been playing this for like 3 hours now, and there is just no sign of slowing down. Absolutely spectacular. I was hoping for a good match in between these two teams, and so far they're delivering. And a wonder! I'm not gonna lie, if this game is won for Vietnam Legends, that's gonna have cool written all over it. The way he's using Chinese is just exceptional. The granaries, the way that he was Ming Dynasty and leveraging the fact that his teammate has a ton of extra relics, so they can use that with pagodas. Those are small things, but they all add up. And now you got a Wonder. Now the Wonder actually has a countdown, so I can show this to you. 15 minutes. That's a ton of time to defend that Wonder with, though. But obviously, very nice reaction from Cool's team. They're like, okay, this could be a long game, this could be a stalemate, we're not sure if we're winning, might as well build a Wonder. Now, you got no less than 70 Fire Lancers over here for the Fat Dragon. Quite a lot of Lancers out there for ACCM. Fire Lancers charging into each other. A spectacular sight, I'm not gonna lie. Look at this. With the Fire Lancers, you actually want to micro them the way that Vivi is doing it. Disengage and then charge back in, and then you just see that slaughter popping up. Retreat once again. Turn around, and you just charge in once again. This charge was actually unsuccessful, and you see that once Vivi notices that, he's going to turn back and charge in again. In straight up melee, the Lancers will be able to deal with the Fire Lancers without problems, but once the Fire Lancers can get some charges in, they will just be able to massacre all those Lancers. Still, Vivi needs to wait a tiny bit more time before returning, because you see, sometimes his charges don't trigger. You see, when those explosions happen, that's where the Fire Lancers get a successful charge, and it wasn't the case for some time. Now, we got some Spearmen on the field though, and that's going to help with the Brace ability. Once you have Brace, the Fire Lancer charge will be nullified, so you can grind down those numbers, and Vivi is losing those numbers quite rapidly. Vivi is down to 175 population, and I feel like ACCM's forces are now doing an exceptional job pushing back Vivi's forces. On the right side, we have absolutely nothing going on. In the middle, though, big forces clashing. Quite a lot of bombards and mangonels from our green player. As the men-at-arms are charging forward, supported by the Fire Lancers, they will be able to burn down those siege weapons. ACCM's team is looking extremely powerful. They are just looking extremely powerful right now. The Fire Lancers will be able to burn down those bombards really fast. They do have an insane torch damage over here. He always got a decent force of Camel Archers, but it's not spectacular. He needs way more than this one. Otherwise, they will just be flooded by units. It's a Fire Lancer flood. It is a Men-at-Arms flood. Vivi is coming in from behind with the Fire Lancers to try and sandwich these forces in between them, and this could actually work out very nicely. There is no Spearman here for Bhakti to brace, and if that charge is successful, all that infantry could go down. Here comes the Fire Lancer charge from the Fat Dragon, and it looks like Yo might be able to hold this, but they need more. They need more than this. They can't just sit back and hold. If there was no Wonder from ACCM's team, Yo's team could afford to just play a long game here and hold on with the Camel Archers, the Fire Lancers, slowly grind down their opponent. But that's not the case over here. 11 minutes remaining until that Wonder victory out here. That Wonder is very well fortified. You see, it's stonewalled in with a layer. There's another stonewall in here. One thing to point out is that the Sacred Site countdown is only 10 minutes, so technically, if your opponent is doing a Wonder, you can still try to go for a Sacred Site victory and just beat him with that. But that would require the White Wolf Palace team to grab the Sacred Sites in less than a minute and then hold them for 10 minutes. Meanwhile, Fire Lancers are moving in over here. They did destroy the White Stupa, and we got some Bombards also crawling up for Bhakti. Elite Camel Archers now with full upgrades are in here though, but there's just no meat shield in front of them, and that hurts for Mr.Yo quite badly. Wolverines also added here by Bhakti, nice addition. Wolverines doing a ton of damage against Bombards, so that way you can grind down the siege. Mr.Yo is exceptional when it comes to the Camel Archer micro, by the way, so he was known for that in AoE2 2v2s as well, being able to use Camel Archers to great effect. In fact, Age of Empires 2 is a very similar map to this one. It plays out a tiny bit differently because it's much harder to wall, but in long games, Acropolis on Age of Empires 2 plays out very similar to this map, and Yo loves the Camel Archers on that map. So very similar approach over here. Vivi now with a handful of Bombards supported by Fire Lancers trading off against each other on the right side. Just look at the stream of reinforcements coming in here for Bhakti though. He's just flooding infantry in here, and they don't need to win fights. They just need to make sure they don't lose fights, and that is going to give them enough time to win the game with a Wonder. I think at this point, Bad Koala needs to go for full Spearman, because they're up against Lancers and they're up against Fire Lancers, and the best way to deal with the Fire Lancers is Spearman that can brace. Yo is going Camel Archers, I can see that working out, Although, honestly, I think the Abbasid Spears don't have the brace bug, and with Abbasid Spears having the longer range as well with Phalanx, that could be even better. So you might need to switch away from Camel Archers here, but the problem right now for them is time. And you see, Pool knows exactly what's happening. He's going to go for some more stone walls on the right side, making sure that it is as difficult as is humanly possible to break into their base. And there's just so many layers of walls to grind down. Pool is just fortifying that corner like magic. Massive amounts of Fire Lancers crashing into each other over here, as we have no Spearman support from either party. But look at that. Pool is moving in once again to intercept the Bombards. Even though those are Clock Tower Bombards, they will die rather fast to the Fire Lancers because the Fire Lancers do have a lot of torch damage. But that also means that the Fire Lancers are focusing down the Bombards, not the opponent's Fire Lancers. So suddenly, Pool is going to lose the majority of his numbers, and his opponent is still sitting at like 50 plus Fire Lancers. The Lancers need to charge in though, because right now they are having a long melee against pretty heavily armored Lancers here, so you want to disengage and then charge back in. Pagoda is even in here for Vivi, not sure what the purpose of that is going to be out there. Couple of towers crawling up, 8 minutes until that Wonder victory. Looking at the banked up resources real quickly, Takti is sitting on 6,000 gold. That is just the Ragnate's Cathedral gold income. And of course the extra relics that he has. So he's in the possession of quite a lot of backup resources if needed. On the right side, I could see Vivi trying to dispatch a couple of Bombards, blast his way through those walls and sort of just send a smaller group to attack. But now this is getting worse and worse for White Wolf Palace, because look at this. I mean, at this point, even without the Wonder, they seem like they're just losing this. A lot of Landsknecht are out. Now, if the Landsknecht can actually close the distance, they can slaughter the Camel Archers, but they're light infantry, so the Camel Archers do a lot of bonus damage against them. You probably want Men-at-Arms. Camel Archers won't perform that great against Men-at-Arms though. And this is where things could start to get ugly for White Wolf Palace. Because at this point, they're barely holding on, let alone pushing that Wonder. Bombards are now setting up here for back. The Hus is a Culverin supporting as he blasts his way through the walls. Here comes the infantry, and unless the Camel Archers specifically focused on the Landsknecht test, some of them will survive because some of the damage will be absorbed here by the Men-at-Arms, and with that area damage they do quite a lot of damage to the Camel Archers. Looks like some Lancers now coming from Bat Koala supported by Mangonels, some Horse Archers, or excuse me, Camel Archers in the field, so they will be able to repel this attack. But once again, 6 minutes remaining and there was just zero visible progress for White Wolf Palace towards that Wonder. In fact, I think they actually fell behind even more compared to where they were. Right now, on the left side, you see Yo is sort of holding on, but at this point, Bhakti knows exactly you just need to spam units into the army of Yo and pin him inside his base. And on the right side, Vivi's got a huge force of Fire Lancers. The problem is that there is nothing that supports against the Lancers, so unless you specifically micro your Fire Lancers in a way that you disengage and engage again to get the charge in, if you just fight like this, those Lancers will perform quite nicely against the Fire Lancers. The biggest problem, as I said though, for them is that they're not progressing towards that Wonder whatsoever. Looking at the population, 162 for Vivi. Bat Koala is at 142, only 20-something army. For the Vietnamese team, it's 200 population for pretty much everybody. Population advantage heavily on the side of the Vietnamese team, and as I said, I don't think this is gonna come down to relics. Now, Fire Lancers will actually have their charge cancelled, but now we get some Men-at-Arms pushing in, Culverins to snipe down the siege. We see some Hand Cannoneers being mixed in, but I feel like, as I said, this Wonder countdown might not even finish. Vivi's got a huge force of Fire Lancers, but at best he can destroy this army, and then once again we'll be at a stage where the Wonder countdown is still going on. Fire Lancers now moving in here for Cool, and it very much seems like Vietnam Legends will secure game number 4 over here, and with that they would secure the series. I was hoping for game number 5 because this was a spectacular set, and keep in mind that the Abbasid player just needs to lose 2 landmarks. The House of Wisdom and the starting town center. The House of Wisdom is down, the starting TC is going down. If this building goes down and this one is not repaired, it's game over for Mr.Yo. I think Yo was gonna lose it. Very smart play once again from Cool. He's the one that was probably the best performer in this game for Vietnam. Yo gets defeated by losing the landmarks, the town center, and the House of Wisdom, and with that, all the hopes of White Wolf Palace to come back at this one just disappear, because 2 versus 1, there is no way they can defeat that Wonder in just 4 minutes of a time. Bombards are still out for bad call, but you gotta ask the question why. Bombards are good to take down buildings. They're not particularly effective against units, especially if these are not Chinese clock tower bombards, but just standard Mongol bombards. And like what you need right now is something that deals with fire lancers or an infantry flood. Fire lancers from VV charge in, and they're still hoping for this one. I really wonder if they know about the Wonder countdown. They should. They should be getting the notifications, but even if they don't, I mean, at this point they're fighting 2v1, and I think that ACCM is going to pop this Sacred Site victory as well. You see, there is a prayer tent coming in for a shaman. ACCM doesn't have population space for that, but he's fortifying all sacred sites. Not only will they have the Wonder, they will also have the Sacred Site countdown. I really don't think it matters, because at this point, even if they just play standard, they're going to win this game. But, not gonna lie, they will just make sure that there is no way on this planet for White Wolf Palace to come back into this one. So, 3 minutes for the Wonder countdown. You're going to have a 10 minutes countdown for the Sacred Sites as well. And of course, just a gigantic force of Lancers here for ACCM. This force for Vivi is still brutal, and I'm fairly certain that the reason why they're saying, okay, keep on playing, is because Vivi's Fire Lancer horde is big. But at this point, if ACCM's team goes AFK for the next 5 minutes, they will still win this game. Because there's physically just no way for Vivi to get there on time, to get that Wonder down. There's multiple layers of stone walls, fortifications in their way. There's just no way that you can get there. Because there is stone walls you can't just run in with the Fire Lancers. You need some siege to blast through the walls. But if you want to blast through the walls, you first need to clean up all these castles in your way. 2 minutes remaining, but really, this game is just over. And before the game concludes, I really want to give a shout out to Cool, because he's probably the least known player of everybody on this team, but especially in this game, he delivered an absolute clinic. The way he used Chinese is just perfect. Like, you can tell that this guy has been playing team games for a long time, and he probably was using Chinese very often. As with that, back the ACCM and Cool take this 4th game, and with that, take the series, defeat White Wolf Palace 3-1. Stunning game, really, just an absolute beauty. And as I said, the most important player I do believe here was Cool. The way that he played this game was spectacular. He used the Chinese to all of its powers, also dropping the granaries. He was the one that realized that, okay, things are fortifying, so I might as well go for a Wonder. He was the one that reinforced the right side with some more stone walls, so he really was someone that understood how to play the late game and understood how to close this game out. And with that, they will take game number 4. Cool is saying Fire Lancer OP. Wonders are OP, my friend. Wonders are OP. Cool with 378 kills, 410 deaths. Vivi, quite a lot of kills over here. Those Fire Lancers did some work, but ultimately it's a negative KD as well. You had a positive KD, obviously, with the Camel Archers, but this game wasn't about the kill-death ratios, because the Vietnamese team was just spamming units into them, knowing that they will win with the Relic if the WWP team can't counterattack. 71,000 food for Cool, 63 for Vivi. That probably is the granary difference. Granary difference would give you 15% gathering rate, and that's pretty much it if you think about it. That 1, 8, 10,000 food. So that's probably what Cool got from the granaries here. Looking at the gold counts, 52 grand gold versus 32 grand. Bakhti had a stunning 70,000 gold. That's the other thing. He was able to pick up the relics, and he had 3 in the Ragnitz Cathedral, 2 or 3 more in his monastery. So that 70,000 gold comes from there. Ultimately, Vietnam Legends take the win over here. I'm really happy with how these games went, I'm not gonna lie. This was a spectacular show match, really strong performance for both teams, and I'm really looking forward to seeing both of these teams in Pro League because you see, both of these teams have insane team chemistry. They know how to play team games, so I'm curious how far they can go. Congratulations to both sides, really, because this was something spectacular.